Fire is not all buyers are qualified.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift.
Contact, nice, clear in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. It is Monday night, September the 24th, and the moon is full on this moon day. And we are broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios from the Great American South. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void, your voice for verity in this crazy realm of polarity. Tonight, our guest is going to have a humdinger for you. On the program, we're going to be discussing the reality of the devil and demons and what he feels is a story and event that happened in his life that needs to be told. Now, some say that, Satan and demons are a myth, maybe an evil side of ourselves. But this man, John Egan, who's with us, says no, indeed, the devil is real. He joins us tonight on the program. It is good to be back. It's been a long weekend. If you want to call into the show, the number is 1-800-588-0335. That is the call-in number, toll-free from U.S. or Canada. And we are live on our affiliates as well as the website, which is lightingthevoid.com. And on the network, it is thefringe.fm. That's KTLK Digital Broadcasting. All over the web. TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes Radio, Radio Guide FM, Radio Garden. Lots of places. And that call-in number is call to listen line is 701-719-3971. I want to say thank you all for your support. All of those who have supported over this past weekend. We got a couple of donations. Thank you very, very much. A big, sweet shout-out to Miss Suzanne Ross. And you know why. Thank you so much for that. This show is brought to you by Audible. For all of you that love audiobooks and you want to get one for free, you can go to audibletrial.com/LTV radio and grab a free Audible book. Get your 30-day free trial, as well as grab a t-shirt. You can also use the Amazon portal if you like. You can donate. You can do all that cool stuff. That's how you can support this show. And I do want to say that next weekend, actually, the weekend of the 6th, we will be at the Arkansas, or at least I will be at the Arkansas Paranormal Expo in Little Rock, Arkansas, broadcasting live, relaying some pretty cool speakers and events there. It's kind of my hometown thing to do, so if you're in the area, come check it out, and I'll be there if you want to hang out and chit-chat with me. The chat rooms are over at lightingthevoid.com/chat. That'll take you to the Discord chat, which runs 24/7. A great place to meet our community and share your links and experiences. And if you want to get into the real-time show chat, that's over on Spreaker. Just search Lighting the Void on Spreaker. I want to say a really big thank you to Eric Markham, my producer and partner on the network, Jeremy Scott, my program director, and all of you who listen and help me every night. I'm so happy to be here. I just got to say, I did not think I was going to make it. I had the stomach flu for the past few days, and I just now started getting over it. But the show must go on, right? And don't forget, if you tweet anything on Twitter, that's hashtag LTV Radio. Now, we're going to introduce our guest here, John Egan, who was born in Brooklyn, New York, now currently living in New Jersey. He has a bachelor's degree from the College of New Jersey, author of several books, including The Enlightment, Between Love and Hate, The Devil is Real, was a syndicated columnist for 2 national magazines for 10 years. And there's a few credits for one of his previous books entitled How to Get Dates with Beautiful Women. That's pretty cool. I'd like to read that one. And a testimony from the celebrities who have interviewed him. Now, this Howard Stern actually called this guy incredible and claimed he was the real deal. According to Robin, you guys know Robin, right? Is that her name? Robin Radzinski? Producer, supervisor for E! This was one of his most watched programs, and it's been broadcast many times. Geraldo Rivera said that the book was great, rated number 1 as well from Men's Fitness magazine and many other national magazines. This guy's been seen by millions on national television. He's been in all kinds of books and magazines. I'm going to leave all of that stuff in the show notes, and he can talk to us about that as well. But the more interesting thing for this show that we're interested in is that you, John, you had an event where you saw an apparition with your wife and son. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Joe, and it's an honor to be here. And we're going to talk about that apparition. We'll get to that. But I mean, every time I hear of an encounter that a person has with like a ghost or an angel or a demon, I wonder about that person a little bit. And I'm a bit skeptical myself. I wonder if he's a legitimate person. Are they a little crazy? Are they doing this for attention? Right. That's why I just wanted to give you a kind of a brief history about my life and who I am. By this apparition I had, a small veil was lifted for a moment in time where I was able to peer in through a dimension unseen by most people. I can actually see through a threshold into a paranormal realm. And we're all going to be faced with that dimension someday, that fifth dimension. And a lot of people ask me, what is the fifth dimension? What are you talking about? Well, we live in the fourth dimension. We have length, width, height, and time. It's our universe. We're born into it. We master it. But there's another dimension out there. And no matter what you do, no matter where you live, no matter how you live, in the end, we're all going to be standing on the precipice of that event horizon of that fifth dimension. I'm not just talking to you, Joe, a couple of your listeners. Everybody out there. Everybody out there is going to be thrust into this abyss. There's going to be forces, though, and for some, and I believe now for many, evil forces they're going to have to contend with. So, Joe, tonight, you and your audience will get an understanding about these evil forces, how they will try to manipulate you in that paranormal realm of the fifth dimension. So we're going to go from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world. And I think your listeners are going to be enlightened a lot on a deep level, more than they can possibly imagine right now. I mean, it's quite frightening, so be prepared. This apparition that I had is the antithesis of any apparition I've ever heard or read about. So when we finally get into it, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. I mean, just think about how many times in the course of history does an entity break through a dimension to deliver a message. Now, I could probably count them on my right hand alone. I mean, when people read the Bible, there's occurrences of angels who brought messages to people. There's not that much about devils bringing messages to people. I mean, there's so many stories about ghosts. Everywhere you see ghosts, scaring people, haunting houses. You know what I mean? You hear so many stories. But tonight, I'm going to ask your listeners to have an open mind, be open-minded, be ready. You may not sleep that well. I mean, you may even have some bad dreams. I mean, that's what people tell me. It's a little terrifying. It's jarring. And I think it's the only book that was ever written that'll take you as close as humanly possible, right into the devil's realm. And it's frightening, that much I can guarantee. So, Joe, I'm not a crazy person. I'm not looking for attention. I was given, talents in my life that got me a lot of attention. Like we said earlier, I wrote a best-selling book, and I hope we have time to talk about that.
Well, you got a pretty extensive bio here, man. I just don't have time to say it all, but you've been on a lot of TV shows, a lot of radio shows, a lot of big names. I want to touch on that, too.
Yeah, we're going to build that mosaic. I want to talk about that, too, and I also want to bring up the fact that I'm an artist whose work has been seen throughout the world, and we'll talk about that, too, a little bit. And the only reason why I bring up that I'm an artist is because I could paint and draw exactly what I see right down to the last detail. So just so your listeners will have a visual when we finally get into this apparition that I had, what appeared in this house, they can go to there's a little dash between John and Egan, EAGAN.com, and they can see the cover of the book. That's where the book is. That's where the ebook is. That's where the cover of it is. And that is what I was confronted with. And we're going to talk about that when we finally get to that. So it's amazing. So hopefully they'll have time to look that up. So I just want to give you kind of like a brief history about who I am and where I came from. Like I said, I was born in Brooklyn, Joe, back in the day, and I went to an all-male parochial school, a school where Franciscan brothers were in charge, and every single thing were regimented back then. We would play in a fenced-in schoolyard. And when the Franciscan brother would come out and blow the whistle, everybody had to stop cold. Like if you were playing basketball or something like that, all you could hear was the basketballs dropping, bouncing, You couldn't touch them, though, because if you moved and you tried to touch the basketball, Franciscan brother's going to beat you. And if your mom found out when you got home, your mom was going to beat you, so you couldn't win. So you just kind of got online, marched into the school like good soldiers. I don't know how my parents did it back then, Joe. It was 6 of us kids. We all went to parochial school. They didn't. My mom and dad didn't have any money. He was a truck driver. But back then, things were different. I want to just talk about that for a minute because I want to say how things have moved exponentially. Everybody kind of went to church back then. You knew your parents would kind of stay together. They weren't really getting divorced like they do today. The whole community went to church every Sunday. That's where you kind of learned how to be like a moral human being, That's where you got your foundation. Kind of stuck with you your whole life.
That's where you got your foundation, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I went to a parochial school, and we went to church every Sunday. It was just like a natural thing to do. The churches were full back then. You had to even get there early just to get a seat. They even had like baby rooms in the back of the church where with a window in the front of it, where if the mothers had babies that were crying, they can go into that room, still attend church, and the crying babies wouldn't affect anybody.
Yeah, I remember those too. We had that too in a Baptist church.
Oh, you do remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't see that now. I don't ever see that anymore now.
I was the only kid that got kicked out of preschool, what is it called? A Sunday school. I got kicked out of Sunday school because I pulled up a girl's dress and blew on her stomach when I was 4 years old because my grandpa used to do that to me, so I thought it would be funny to do to her, but they didn't like it when I did that to her, and they kicked me out for a few days.
Just
for a few days, yeah.
All right, till you learned your lesson or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But
anyways, go ahead.
According to studies, like 70% of the people from my religion alone have dropped out of this, going to church and attending church and bringing their kids to church. It just was a different world back then. We in Brooklyn, New York, we just all the kids hung out in the same neighborhood, rain or shine, summer or winter. You played stickball in the middle of the street. There wasn't an internet yet. Just people just hanging out and being friends, just to show you how things have changed a lot. They did a study just 20 years ago, and they asked people, how many intimate friends do you think you have that you can go to with your problems and you feel secure with? And the answer was 3 people. So they did that same study today, and they asked the same question. And now that we have an internet, Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, everybody has hundreds of friends, you would think. And when they did that study today, and they asked people, how many intimate friends do you think you have? It is now 1.5.
Wow.
So I went from 3, which was, our technology has given us global communication nowadays and thousands of friends, but it's half what it was 20 years ago. So exponentially, it's changing exponentially. In the past, people used to fear snakes and spiders and hives, but nowadays, with all our technology and global connection, the biggest fears of the millenniums today are low Wi-Fi, that buffering circle when you're waiting for a website to come up, and low battery life. Like, that's the last thing that would be on my mind when I was a kid back in the day, you know what I mean? But nowadays, that's their biggest concerns. But
so times have changed, basically, is what you're saying.
Times have changed, I'm thinking now for the worse, because suicide rate among boys have doubled.
Really?
Suicide rate among girls have tripled. 1 million people this year will commit suicide. So I'm thinking I love this technology myself, but I think it's kind of working against us like a neutron bomb. When a neutron bomb explodes, it doesn't make a big explosion, but the neutrons penetrate the buildings and armor and underground and bunkers, and it kills everything from the inside. Like, all the buildings just stay there standing perfectly with no damage whatsoever. And I think now I'm beginning to believe that's how these demons want the direction for us to go. With the internet, pornography is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. Sex trafficking, multi-billion-dollar industry. Greed is so rampant today. There's like wars in every little country. It's kind of scary, the direction that we're heading with this technology that we have. I don't know if you feel that way.
No, I agree with you. I've talked about it a little bit. I mean, on one hand, it's a blessing in a lot of ways, because we're doing what we're doing right now if it wasn't for science and technology. But at the same time, it's I totally understand what you're saying. When I was a kid, things were more simple. If you wanted to make a phone call, you had to go into a house and actually pick up a phone. So a phone call was an important thing. There was no texting back then. So, yeah, I mean, there was a lot more human interaction. You know what? And I do miss it. And
I do miss that, too, a lot. In my family, it was 8 people in our family. We had one black phone in the house. That's what it was, for 8 people. Like nowadays, everybody has their own personal, phone that goes with them everywhere. This phone was just attached. It was your land. it was in the house, and it never left the house. You know what I mean? You couldn't take that phone with you anyway.
So you think these evil spirits have worked? In your opinion, they're working their way through the technology that we use today?
I think they're working in it. Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt in my mind that they are definitely working in it, and we'll try to discuss that later. So my dad moves us all from New Jersey, from Brooklyn, New York. He takes us the whole crew to New Jersey, and that's why. And I went to the College of New Jersey. It's supposed to be a good college, but when you go there, you think it's not a great college. It's supposed to be such a great college, but I'm not sure. But I got my degrees there, and then I started my career as a special ed teacher. And I started working with kids that had no qualities or attributes or characteristics that normal kids have, And that's when I began to feel blessed. I always had a prayer for life. But when you work with these kids, you kind of appreciate the fact that just being normal is a blessing, because these kids have nothing, So I started to think I had to kind of pay back for just being normal. So I increased my prayer life. So I pray and meditate for about an hour and a half a day, and I've done this my whole life. So, I mean, I work with these poor kids. They had nothing going for them. I even had kids in some of my classes that had these terrible cancers, Joe, in their heads and their jaws. And there wasn't much we could do with it. I would give them a coloring book and crayons and let them color in the lines. And they would try so hard to color in the lines. They were just little kids. But sometimes their cancer in their jaws would cause them to drool a lot. And they were drooling down onto their coloring books. They didn't even realize it. We would clean it up. I had a teacher's aide in the room to help me out with these kids. But, I mean, that's how I felt blessed. I felt like just being normal is a blessing, And there wasn't really no hope for these kids back then. But that wasn't very long ago, maybe 20 years ago. But nowadays, there's a little more hope, They have hospitals now where they can help them a little bit, but not as much as they probably people would like. So I had a lot of time on my hands, Joe. So as a special ed teacher, because they had a 2-hour lunch. So the teacher's aide in the room would have to feed them. So I had 2 hours for lunch. I didn't have to test the kids where I had to correct test papers, like most teachers do. I didn't have to do that. So I had a lot more time doing that. Actually, the only real thing that we did for these kids in the schools that I worked at was, if you ever see a tractor trailer pull up to a warehouse and they have those iron wheels and they put them out and then they put the boxes on them and they slide them down into the warehouse. Well, we had a couple of them in the room. So I would set them up, and I had boxes, and I set all the kids up along the iron wheels, and I would give the first kid a box, and he would open it, and I would tell him to, move it down to the second kid, and the second kid would put something in it, and he would close it, and then he would move it down to the third child, and the third child would, like try to put tape on it or something like that, and the other one would try to stack it, So that was kind of like the jobs that they were going to have. So I had all this time, extra time, because I didn't have to correct papers. I mean, the hardest thing for me was getting them just to learn the date, and that was even a hard thing for them. And these weren't just kids; they were kind of like getting older. So what I knew how to bartend, so I started working at night as a bartender because I had all this extra time. So that's where, there's a lot of great people out there at night, but there's a big percent of people who are like a little more wicked. They're dealing in more of the dark side of things out there, not just looking for alcohol. They're looking for drugs.
Yeah. I managed a bar for 4 years, so I know where this one's going.
Oh, so
I
you
met
must
those
know.
people too. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
I hung out with those people for a while, actually.
I know, and I actually enjoyed that. I mean, they're all those people are great people. Even the wicked people were funny. You know what I mean? The only thing that I don't know if you realize that, well, if this happened to you, they're looking for drugs, they're looking for alcohol, they're looking to commit adultery, they're looking to get anything to get their hands on.
So was I. See, wait, no, I'm sorry. Maybe I was one of the wicked people.
Were you?
Probably, yeah.
Well, I don't know, but you seem to be still alive. But a lot of these people, people I knew who are atheists, and I can get along with anybody and everybody, and
Sure.
and I did. And but over the years, these people that kind of like died a lot. They died quick. Like they died in accidents or car accidents. They died from overdoses. They died from suicide, and they died from cancers. And I felt like these people were like ships without a rudder in the night. They would go anywhere the wind or the tide would take them. And when they died, I felt like they were lost souls, and I felt like I couldn't. Well, I felt helpless for these people. And I actually had a friend who worked right with me. His name was Chris. He was an atheist. He was an alcoholic, and he smoked like 7 every night, and he drank and smoked every single night. But he never liked God, or he didn't believe in God. He didn't believe in Jesus. He would make fun of Jesus and make fun of the Virgin Mary. He smoked and drank every night for 7 days a week. And one day he didn't feel well, and he went to visit the doctor, and he already had 4th stage cancer. So he couldn't work anymore. And within a matter of 3 months, he aged like about 40 years. I used to go to try to visit him before I went to work as a bartender. And I would try to talk to him about God, because it was getting, he knew it was over for him, because they didn't even want to keep him in the hospital anymore. But he was even more bitter from the diagnosis that he had of cancer. So he died like in a terrible state. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no person should die. And I didn't know really how to help him. And I felt kind of helpless. And my religion, Joe, we learned that people fall into hell like snowflakes fall from the sky, especially if there's nobody to pray for them. So I started thinking to myself, all these people I knew, because I knew them personally, I felt a bond with them, even though they were kind of a little bit wicked, and they were out there doing everything that you could possibly do, and then dying from a lot of these things. But I knew them personally, so I thought maybe I should pray for these people, because I know the people that they hung out with was not going to be praying for them. So at that time, I had my job during the day and my job at night. And then I asked God, don't send these souls to hell until I finish praying for them, if they're going in that direction. So no matter how long you give me on this planet, I just want to pray for them and do whatever I can while I'm here. And I believe now that was the prerequisite for why this demon creature was compelled to possess this house. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you a couple of funny stories that happened. But in the meantime, as a bartender, I realized I saw a problem. In every nightclub I worked at, if a guy saw like a good-looking girl, he would say to me, "Who's that girl? Should I buy her a drink? Should I ask her to dance? Should I go over and talk to her?" And I was like, "Well," then he would say to me, "Go over and talk to her for me." So, Joe, I had to go over there and say, "Hi, you see that guy over there?" And try to break the ice for these guys, So I started doing that, and I realized these guys don't know how to communicate with women. And the guys that got up on their own, walked over to the girl, talked for a little while, got shot down, had to go back to their stool again. And the woman would say to me, "Who was that creepy guy?" or something even worse. And I was thinking to myself,
is that why you wrote your book about how to approach women and stuff?
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about this real quick. Right. So I'm thinking. And I would say to the guy, "What did you say to her?" "Oh, she's like a lesbian or something." They would tell me, "It's like, no, you just don't know how to talk to women."
That's a good excuse, right? Well, if they don't like me, they must be lesbians.
They must be. They gotta be. Yeah.
That's how that'll piss one off. That'll piss them off real easy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So what I did, Joe, was I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to start interviewing women that come into the nightclubs. I made up this survey, and it was all the pertinent questions about how to be a gentleman, how to approach a woman, how to look, how to act, how to behave. What turns you on when we're talking to you? What turns you off when we're talking to you? How do you get that date, Mm-hmm. So I started how do you want to take a shower? What kind of perfume, cologne should we wear? So I just wrote up this survey, and I started survey the ladies that came into the nightclubs that I worked at. And then I started going into the mall, asking the women there, on the street into women's gyms. I put like stacks of these surveys in women's gyms, and I was allowed to tell them as they came in, there's a survey there. Would you mind filling them out? And so many women are so forthcoming that and when I came back like a week later, like I had like 2,000 interviews when I was finally done trying to figure out the solution to this problem for guys, So I found out, and I was going through the interviews, and I realized there's a real exact great answer for every single question, every single stage of this process of walking over to a woman, to act like a gentleman and do exactly the right thing. So I put this book together. It's like about 300 pages, I guess. And I started doing some TV shows and stuff, and Men's Fitness Magazine sees me, Joe. It's a respected national publication in this country. I'm sure you must have saw it. And they call me and say, we saw you talking about this book. We want to take it and see if it really works. And I'm gonna try other best-selling books like this, and we're gonna do a survey about how this actually works. And I was like, fine, just go ahead. So they did the survey. They told the guys to only do exactly what the book tells you. Don't do anything you think is good. Just do exactly the techniques of the book. So when they wrote the article, when that finally came out, they had like a whole thing there, a whole survey there, and they said that 80 to 90% of the women that used that the guys who used my technique got a phone number in a day from 80 to 90% of the women, and every other book was 0, 0, 0. So that blew up the book. I mean, everybody wanted to talk to me. Every magazine wanted me to be in there. Every TV show wanted to be in there. So I just kind of rode the wave with that. So
let me ask you a question real quick. If I go to a bar to meet a woman, is that a good place to meet a woman in a bar?
Oh, any place is a good place to meet a woman.
I always thought a bar was a terrible place to meet a woman. I don't know, because they just I always thought their agenda was to, just to have fun, and then they do their little block, their friends do all the blocking and stuff.
Oh,
Can't stand that stuff, The protective one that's taking care of everybody.
Oh,
you just want to put her in a trash can. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that happens today too. That's always going to happen. They're always going to be defensive, about that. But if you understand and learn the techniques, first off, it's most kind of eye contact and body language. And I mean, if you're getting the right, feedback and the right cues from a woman, then that's almost like an okay to come over and start to say hello. So. If you use the techniques, it could work anywhere. I mean, nightclubs or I had to do so many TV shows. One of them was the Howard Stern show. Howard Stern has like 14 million listeners, right?
Yeah.
So producers call me and say, we want to come in to test your book. So come in, we have some ideas we want. So I come in, and I'm talking to the producers, and Howard comes in, and we sit at the table. And so the idea was Howard's going to give me his henchmen, like I don't know if you listen to Howard Stern, but he had like Benji.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to take. They had an E crew back then with all their cameras and equipment, and we're going to go out to Bryant Park. And every week I'm going to get a new guy, and he's going to have like hidden cameras and hidden microphones, and I'm going to be watching what he does, and I could hear everything he says. And so we go into Bryant Park. From my defense, in Bryant Park, there's a lot of girls come out for lunch, so the odds are kind of like a little bit in my favor,
Sure.
So it's middle of the day, though. Yeah, but it's the middle of the day. They're having lunch, and not really in the mindset of like having a date. But anyway, so we go there. Benji was one of the guys that I had to take out, and he's there. He's like, I want to go over and talk to that girl over there. I was like, well, she's so out of your league, Benji. I mean, if your league blows up, she's not even going to hear about it.
So were you talking about realistic leagues and stuff in your book? Because I've never believed in that. Like a woman is out of your league.
Joke.
Oh, I got you. Okay. All right.
So no, I don't believe in that at all. So anyway, I go with Benji and so I go up to him and say, excuse me, it's not easy meeting a police stranger, especially one as lovely as you, without being properly introduced. But could we try anyway? My name is Benji, and he would do everything I said, and he starts getting dates, right? So I would listen every morning because Howard would remark because he was trying to build up a show, and I was trying to help him build up a show.
Oh yeah, me too. By the way, we can't curse on this show like you can on How. I forgot to tell you.
Oh no, I don't curse anyway. No, I never curse anyhow, so we don't have to worry about that.
Cool.
So and next morning he goes on the air. I'm listening that morning. He goes, that fat slob Benji. He goes, John Egan just got him 10 days this morning. And everybody's like, no way, Benji couldn't get 1 day. So I had to do that for like 4 weeks. He gave me the guys that had no attributes that any woman would want to even look at. One time I got an intern, his teeth were green. I said, look, when we go out tomorrow, can you brush your teeth? Can you just do me that much?
Take a bath, maybe. Hey, we got to take our first break. I do want to hear about how this date goes, though, for real.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know anybody could get Benji a date. And I hope he's not going to listen to what I'm saying, but that is funny. That's funny.
You never know.
We'll be right back with John Egan. We're going to get into his story, too, by the way, where he saw this apparition with his family.
Absolutely.
Be right back, guys.
To Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News for The Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Criminals could have reduced sentences if they agree to electrical brain stimulation that makes them feel guilty. This according to neuroscientists. Convicted criminals could have years taken off their custodial sentences. Reduction would be conditional on them agreeing to have electrical stimulation. This is according to Dr. Nick Davis from Manchester Metropolitan University. He says the tech is not quite ready, but it could become widespread in the future. Brain stimulation has already been proven to change people's moral choices. You could read more of this interesting story at thedailymail.com. And China's chilling social credit system is straight out of a dystopian sci-fi, and it's already being switched on. It's been in the pipeline for years, a sprawling technological mass surveillance network, the likes of which the world has never seen, and it's already been switched on. China's social credit system, which is expected to be fully operational by 2020, just doesn't monitor the nation's almost 1.4 billion citizens. It also is designed to control and concur them in a gigantic social engineering experiment that some have called gamification of trust. You can read more of this disturbing story at sciencealert.com. And bad Photoshop efforts fool Iranian media into thinking U.S. aircraft carriers are testing UFOs. The Iranian state media fell for the spoof of a YouTube video showing a fake UFO on the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford. The website used anonymous YouTube comments to suggest the U.S. had a secret stealth jet program and that nobody respected the military. The video is clearly false for a variety of reasons and falls well below the standards of good reporting. You can see the photos and the rest of the story at businessinsider.com. And a man reports a Bigfoot sighting in Wisconsin. A Wisconsin man says he saw a Bigfoot creature in Barron County. Bob, who did not provide a last name, says that he was fishing on a lake when he spotted the monkey-like creature in plain daylight. He's quoted as saying, "It was around 4 p.m. I made a cast and followed my lure when it hit the water, when I noticed movement beyond my lure on the side of the hill." This is what he told a BFRO investigator about the alleged September 2011 encounter. The man claims the animal was hanging onto one tree and grabbing another as it came down the hill. It then reportedly stopped for about 2 seconds and looked at the eyewitness. Then he continued up the hill. I was about 20 yards away. Bob described it as 8-foot-tall biped with gray hair. He says when he told his friend about the encounter, his friend also admitted to seeing it too. 3 months ago, a Wisconsin driver spotted a similar creature in Sawyer County. You can read more of the details to this story at cryptozoologynews.com. And it's time for this week's fun fact. The chance of you dying on the way to get a lottery ticket is actually greater than your chance of winning. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt. Stick around for more Lighting the Void with your host, Joe Roop.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on The Fringe FM.
We told you weeknights on The Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, The Fringe FM.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass, because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shifthead.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Don't forget, this show is here for you 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM. Tomorrow night, the Pascagoula abduction incident with Calvin Parker is going to be on the program. So you guys are going to want to be there for that one. That's the one I've been waiting on for a little while. But tonight, we're with John Egan. We're going to be speaking about The Devil is Real, which is one of his books. But he also wrote books about dating. He's told us a little bit about his backstory, and kind of funny, he was on the Howard Stern show. And not only were you on Howard Stern, but you got Benji a date? How
Absolutely.
did you do that?
I know. I wondered about that too. I was a little nervous about that because when I went to with the E-Crew, you got these 12 guys with all the equipment and cameras and hidden equipment and all this other stuff. And we're walking to Bryant Park down the streets of New York with all this equipment and setting it all up. And I got Benji, you know what I mean? Big fat Benji. So I was a little concerned about it, but I knew he was okay talker, though. You know what I mean? That kind of helped a little bit, but he didn't have any skills of how to approach women, so he just listened to everything. He had an earpiece in, and he had cameras on him, and he would say to me like, "Oh, I see that girl over there." I could see in the TV that they had over there, and he would say to me, "See that girl over there?" And I would say, "Yeah, I want to go pick her up." And I was like, "Oh, geez, she's so beautiful. I don't know."
He was going look at you. He was going for 10s, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Every time. Yeah, might as well. You got the date doctor there.
I know. So after a couple of times, he got the phone. He said, "Oh, this is easy." He goes to me, "Oh, yeah, it's easy. Sure it is, Benji. You know, it's not easy, but we're going to work on this." And I needed to get dates for these guys because I was building up a show for Howard Stern. He was 14 million listeners back then. Yeah. So, and that was my target audience. Little did I know, though, after I did that show, I always thought like UPS drivers and taxi drivers are the ones that listen to him, and guys going to work. I know guys going to work in the morning, but all the judges and lawyers I knew, when I bumped into them, like, I heard you on Howard the other day. I was like, you guys are listening to Howard every morning? Yeah. What do you think we do when we're going to work? Everybody's listening to Howard. I guess that's true, you know. So every week he gives me another guy, and I go into the Bryant Park with him, and I had Eric. I don't know if you even remember this. Had so many people to go in there with. He was a creepy guy too, but he got dates, and then Howard would say this thing, you know, the guy Eric, John Eagan, I'm going to give him the ugliest intern we have because he's never going to be able to get this guy dates. That was a guy who had green teeth. So I came in to see him first because I didn't want to just come in. So I see him. I'm trying to coach him a little bit on how to look, how to act, how to behave, you know, how to stand. And his teeth are green. Like, you got to brush your teeth, man. You got to brush your teeth, and you have to put on some nice clothes. You know, you just can't you just look like a bum. You can't really just look like a bum. These women have nice jobs, you know.
Yeah.
Date a bum looking. Come in the next day, he's dressed exactly the same way.
Or just T-shirt and jeans, no hygiene.
So I had a nice shirt on, so I give him my shirt. We brush his teeth, you know, brush those teeth, get those teeth. So so he goes. We go to Bryant Park with all the hidden cameras and everything like that, and set it all up. He's looking at this beautiful girl standing there having lunch. He goes, I want to get a date with her. I was like, oh, my gosh. All right, let's try. I go walk over to her, you know, excuse me, it's not easy meeting her, please. And he does a whole routine. And he gets a date, and I was like flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it that this woman actually gave him his phone number. But he got a few dates that day too. So it happened to be one of his highest rated shows because every week we did something crazy and had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of footage.
You were really surprised about that though, John? I mean,
I'm not really surprised, but look, I mean,
yeah, I used to do homework about this. I never saw your book, but in my late 20s, after my divorce, I was reading all these, you know, date guru books and stuff. And one of these guys told me, he said, pick up a romance novel. You know, these women, they're buried in these romance novels all the time.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And on the front, you see this Fabio-looking guy they got on the front. But in reality, a lot of times in these books, they go for the chuds. Some short, bald guy that just had an attitude problem or something. It's weird.
Oh, you said like the bad boys too, right?
Yeah. So that's what he was trying to show me. He was like, it ain't always the Fabio types on the front of the book. You know,
it's not always.
You're
right.
So, you know, Benji's not really. Anyways, that's where I'm not too surprised that happened because a lot of these super hot women, you know, they get approached every day by just some of the weirdest stuff, and it's usually 100 times a day.
That's true. All right, that is true. But the thing is to have the key. I mean, when you read, my book was 300 pages, and I just took what they told me. That's what I used in the book. I didn't say I knew how to do this. I said they know how to do this. They know what they want. Like just like the first thing, like the biggest problem for most men in nightclubs was walking up to a woman and they would say something like about their body parts or something. They thought complimenting their body parts was something like a great compliment. That's one of the biggest turnoffs that I found out when I asked them what turns you off about a situation like this, and then I was just like 15 ways men turn women off when they approach them. One of them was mentioning their body parts.
This is how you stirred up these demons. I'm telling you, man. Look, I used to. I know that too. I used to mess with them. I'd be like, "Where'd you get those shoes?" You know. Or I'd be like, "Your eyebrows are a little off center," just because I already knew they were super insecure, so I'd get them worried about that the whole time. I was kind of a jerk.
Well, I wonder if that would work. That might. I wouldn't. I don't have.
It takes the attention off how ugly I am, and they start thinking about themselves. You know.
Yeah. But it's true about a lot of things you said. The bad boy's a little bit exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like excitement is kind of a good thing. You know, women they go through life, and sometimes there's not like a lot of excitement. If they see a guy like even the motorcycle guys, it's a little exciting. They're a little danger. Like like if you take a woman on a date and you take her on a roller coaster ride, she that adrenaline, that feeling that she gets, they attach that onto the man. Yeah, so
there's a psychological term for that. It's called not grounding, but it's something else. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah,
see, I've read these books too, man. You know, come on, I've read them before.
But for me, the book was great. It was wonderful. I just want to tell you another really funny story about when I was back then. I live right here in New Jersey, so New York has all these Today in New York, Good Day in New York, Good Morning America, all these morning shows, you know. And then once you get on the circuit, everybody wants to interview you. And if you're a decent interview, they'll have you on 2 or 3 times, you know. So I'd always be going into New York. But during that time, like about 20 years ago, there was a lot of young celebrities, you know. You go into like the NBC studio studio, and you walk up, you get through the security, then you walk up. They have what they call the green room, and you sit. And when you're in the green room, they have like bagels and coffee, and there's usually a big glass window. It looks over either Rockefeller Center or it looks over Times Square, and you sit there and you wait for the producer to come in and tell you what they're going to do, and then they come in and call you in to do your interview. So you sit there with like a lot of young celebrities, and one of them, Joe, was Chris Brown. He was a rapper. He's still a rapper today, right? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so Chris Brown was doing interviews there too, so I would bump into him now and then. So and we go into the green room, we sit down, you have your coffee, you wait till they call, and they come in. So now I've done maybe 10 to 12 to 15 of these shows in these green rooms, all the channel 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, whatever they are. And I'm watching TV with my wife, and Chris Brown, he was going out with Rihanna back then, and he beat her up. And he never wanted anybody to interview him about that, right? So somebody had the nerve to try to interview him about that, and he got pissed off, and we went back into the green room. He took the chair and threw it right through the plate glass window, right out onto Times Square. You got to Google that. Remember that. But it was on all the news. I was sitting there with my wife watching every news channel. All they could talk about was Chris Brown. I go to my wife, this guy is a genius. I'm going to my wife, this guy is a genius. I sat in those green rooms with him sometimes. Every one of those green rooms, I never thought to take the chair and throw it out through the plate glass window onto Times Square and get all this free publicity.
Yeah, there's no publicity is bad publicity when you're in that light.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
So that was so fun. I mean, it was just a lot of fun. I just rode the wave, and I just went with it. I did. It was the book sold so well. I had to ask my wife to stop working to come here to run this company because it just blew up out of control. Especially after I did the Howard Stern. I mean, I did every show, and every show had millions of listeners. But Howard Stern had 14 million, and I just could
Howard's
not.
The man. Still is.
Oh, he is the man. He is the man, and he's a very sensible, intelligent person. When he's on that microphone, he's funny as can be. He's great at it, and behind the scenes, he's a very business guy. You know what I mean? He's the power.
They're about to get bigger because Sirius just bought out Pandora. Did you hear about that?
Know. It just happened today or something, right? Well, the news just came out today, so that's going to be a big. Maybe you want to buy some stock into one of those companies. I've had Sirius satellite stock ever since Howard, because I knew Howard when he was leaving K-Rock. I knew he was going somewhere, and I thought he was going to Sirius satellite, so I started buying stock when it was like $2. Went up to $9, but it went all the way back down to 5 cents at one point. Now it was up to $7 yesterday. Was now $6.50 today because of this whole publicity thing. I don't know why their stock would go down, but Pandora's stock went up. But that's
overbought and oversold stuff. But listen, so. I'm trying to figure this out. So far, you're just a regular guy who's pretty decent fella who's noticed some things, not afraid to talk to a lady, wrote some books about it, got on the Howard Stern show, pretty successful books. You've been on quite a few shows, actually.
Oh, yeah. I think everyone you could think of. I've been on over the years from doing this show. I mean, I had to go everywhere just had to go everywhere to do these shows, and I didn't mind. So I actually, when the book started selling so well, I stopped working as a teacher. I retired from that, very early.
When you start writing about you've seen an apparition or a devil or a demon or something, I mean, just curious here. Yeah. You're pretty successful with all this other stuff. Wouldn't you be thinking in your head, look, if I write about this could be, like career suicide here or something?
Oh, absolutely,
maybe.
It could be career suicide. It sure could. I would never have written this book if this didn't actually happen to me. I had no reason to even go near this subject if this didn't actually really happen. And I say this, the prerequisite of it was when I worked in nightclubs and I worked with these people who I felt died. From, like I said, overdoses and accidents and suicides and cancer. And I felt that they died like lost souls, and I felt helpless for these people. And I knew anybody else who knew them, they certainly weren't church-going people. And atheists who died, I just felt like there's so many people dying that, in this next dimension, they're going to be like lost souls out there, and they might seem helpless. So I decided, I included all these names of all the people who I knew in my prayers, and I said, like I said earlier, I said to God, don't send these souls to hell until I'm finished praying for them, and no matter how long you give me here, I'm going to pray every day for these people. And when I hear more people, because I still hear about these people too, and people call me and tell me, guess what happened to him, and guess what happened to her, and I add that to the list, and that's what I think was the prerequisite for how this creature decided to possessed this house and what it did here. And when we get into that, I think it's going to be very enlightening and very interesting to your listeners. And I'm going to try to tell you every single detail of what happened then.
But you wrote, now you have a whole book about it though, right? As far as the incident goes, what's the name of that book? The title. The
name is The Devil is it's Between Love and Hate. You're between love and hate. When you're living in when you're in this universe, you're between the love of one side and pure hate on the other side. So it's between love and hate. The devil is real. He is trying to get your soul and will succeed with many. And when we talk about this and what I've learned from this creature that was here, you're going to understand what all that means.
All right, so I'll stop interrupting you.
Oh no, go ahead. I don't know if you're going to a commercial yet or not, or
no. We still got 10 minutes. When you talk about, for some reason, I know I'm on a conspiracy fringe network, but my audience knows when you start talking about dating and stuff, and women, I can't help it. I may be like the / Howard Stern / redneck of paranormal radio. I don't know yet.
Oh yeah.
I get lost in that subject sometimes.
Yeah, well, the thing was, so many things happened with that book. Like, a couple of magazines approached me and asked me if I wanted to have a column in their magazines, which was great for me because I have millions of readers, and now I have a column in there. I'm getting paid $1,000 a month to write an article and answer 5 questions, and they're reading. Millions of people are reading this. You know what I mean? I'm getting paid to be.
Right? So, issue of Men's Fitness magazine rated the book number 1.
That was my big break, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got Men's Health Books came out with a new book entitled A Whole Life of Sex, in which they describe you as one of the greatest authorities in the country.
Yeah,
it's actually on page 88 of that book if you guys want to check that out.
That's amazing, right? That so many people would interview me who were writing books on this subject. So I just went with the wave, and I did that. And other magazines would call me and say, "Look, we don't have a writer right now. We'll pay you $1,000 just to write an article, and we'll put it in our magazine." And now, Joe, I'm getting paid
$1,000 to write an article.
Yeah, well, articles had to be about 2 or 3 pages long, so it's not really a small. It's kind of in a whole,
business. We got to talk after this.
That's what I'm saying. I never knew this was. I mean, anybody's thinking about writing a book out there. There's so many things that you just never know is going to happen. So I would write an article. I would get paid $1,000. It goes into their magazine, who have millions of listeners. Now they're reading my article, and at the end of my article is always a plug for the book. So, and how to get my book, So now I'm in all these magazines. I had my own column in two national magazines, and now I'm writing for other who just didn't have writers. We don't have a writer right now. Can you just write the article for us and send it in? We'll send you. And I was like, yeah, I could do this. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't do this? You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I would for sure.
Absolutely. So that's the kind of thing I did. Other funny things that happened, like when I was doing like these morning shows, and you had to get there like 4:30 in the morning, and you're sitting in the green room, and then they would come in and say, "Listen, you want to go on now? You want to wait an hour? There'll be another million people listening." And when they were up and putting the TV on in an hour, and that was like a no-brainer for me. Yeah, I want to talk to another million people. Who wouldn't?
Right. Right, so you're on top of the world then at this point, right?
Well, it did and worked out just with. I saw a problem. I tried to fix a problem for guys, and it just kind of struck a chord with men, and it just worked so well. So I stopped being a teacher. I love those kids, you know what I mean? But I stopped being a teacher, so I moved on from that. And I love working at night because you understand that because you owned your own nightclub, I think, right?
Well, I managed a bar, in Hot Springs for a few years.
So you know how much fun these people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that must have been wild too, right?
Yeah, it was a tourist town right on a lake that everybody comes to. So yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. It's nice to being with these people. It's fun with being with these people. They're really party people, But as a bartender, though, maybe as a manager, you might have to. On the other side, you might have to drink. But as a bartender, you don't have to drink. You could. I mean, you can if you want. But I mean, you could be there. You're making money and you're having fun with these people. You know what I mean? Till all 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes even later. Well,
it's not like Cocktail. Like everybody thinks that's why I got into it because I watched that movie Cocktail. I thought I was going to be Tom Cruise or something, but. When you actually, when you actually bartend and it's a busy bar, you got no time for all that stuff.
Oh, no, you don't have time for
You got to make sure you're getting all the drinks out right and you're stocked, and you got to make sure that you're not getting stolen. The waitresses aren't stealing from you. The people aren't stealing from you.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's something you have to worry about. Yeah, that's true. I worked in kind of big places where thousands of people would come in there, and it would be like just a giant place. And even the managers were like half drunk by the end of end of the night. You know? But I mean, everybody just had like a great time. I mean, these people were like fun people. Most of them were like.
No wonder you got demons. You got all the same demons I do. I thought you were going to tell me something. No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
No, we're going to get into that. Like I said, I felt a connection with these people who were wicked. Even though they were wicked, I can't get along with anybody, Joe. I had no problem with that, and be friends with anybody, and laugh with anybody, and have a good time with anybody. And but when these people, I saw they died so easily for some reason. Like one day you see them, next day they overdosed on alcohol, died on overdose from alcohol. Like you never really. That happens. That don't happen a lot, though. At least not in my life. Oh, I know, but that definitely happens for people who drink 7 nights a week and smoke cigarettes. It's just
it
not
killed my mother, but I don't see it. I don't know. I mean, I really didn't make a lot of friends there. I was in and out most of the time. Didn't really know a lot of people.
Oh, okay. I knew everybody. I just knew everybody. I mean, I worked in one club, and this other bigger club wanted me to come over there, and I was like, yeah, I'll come over there. And when I came over there, that whole other club of people filed me over to that other club, and the owners of that other place were like, you can't leave us like this. There's nobody in here anymore.
Did you have a problem drinking, though? See, I could drink before I bartended, but after bartending, I couldn't drink anymore. I just couldn't stand the smell of it after a while.
No, I never had a problem with drinking. I never drank a lot. That was one of the things. I could still have. I'm a social drinker. Like I could still have a drink. There's a party, I'll have a couple of drinks. Yeah, but I never feel like I need to have a drink ever. And like you, I don't drink at night. Like if I'm home with my wife, we don't drink.
I gotta have a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have a reason, like there's some kind of party going on or something, Right. You could relax, you don't have to drive. One of the things that scare me a lot is driving, because a lot of people I know died from car accidents from drinking and driving, and that happens, but you don't hear of it that much for some reason. But it does when you're involved in these night people, you do hear a lot about that. So that's the only that's the thing that scares me. But anyway, that's how this was a prerequisite, I think, for why this demon came here. Was what I prayed for these souls every single day, and I still do to this day, and I still will for as long as God gives me to live on this planet. But I was able to leave both jobs. I missed those kids a lot, but it was taking up a lot of my time during the day that I didn't need to do anymore. You don't really work if you don't really need to do that, you know what I mean? At nighttime, people, I love being with them, but, after a while, if you don't have to do it, you don't do it. You know what I mean? So I stopped. I just retired. I do the book. I do my artwork too, and I want to bring that up too because what I saw, I think
Jesus, man, do you sleep?
I know, really. That's true. If you think about it, I am up a lot, but I don't have to really be up in the morning. You know what I mean? Any time I get up in the mornings, maybe if some of my friends want to go golfing or something like that, then that's when I have to.
That must be nice.
Oh, that's great. I'll tell you, that is wonderful. So that's how my life was going, and so the book was there and my artwork. So I did want to bring up the fact that my artwork, I could, whatever I see, I could draw and I could sketch right down to every single detail. So like when I said earlier, if you go to John-Egan, EAGAN.com, you can see a visual of what we're going to start talking about this apparition that I had, that I was able to draw exactly what I saw, and that is exactly what happened here that day. So that'll give you a visual when we start get into talking about it. I know you're probably going to need to go to a commercial or something at some point.
Yeah, but at this point, just a little wrap up here. I can't imagine. You probably got a million stories. You should do your own talk show. You got a million. Right. So, I mean, you helped kids, then you helped, men get dates, and you got some bestsellers and some big articles out there. You've been on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah.
I mean, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 55.
55 years old. Man.
Yeah.
Still full of it, aren't you?
Why do I sound like an old man?
Yeah, man, you still you sound full of it. You sound like you got a lot more left in you.
But, I feel like I got a lot more left in me. That's one thing I'm not worried about.
But you're right. Yeah, we do got to pay the little bills here. So we'll be right back, guys, with John Egan. Don't go anywhere.
you doing today, guys? This is Garrett Lee.
And this is Randy Warner.
We're the hosts of Healers and Hellraisers, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
From birth, we have been conditioned to conform to what is normal, conditioned to adhere to authority, and conditioned to repeat what has been told to us as truth. I'm Ryan Gable, and here at the Secret Teachings Radio, I've interviewed hundreds of great guests and done extensive unique research into subjects that span from the paranormal and the occult to health, philosophy, and history. I personally have no affiliations or agenda, except to use objective critical thinking in my analysis of every subject discussed, to empower myself with information and hopefully allow you to do the same. If you want to join me, tune into the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, airing live Monday through Friday from midnight to 3 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time on the Fringe FM. For more information, you can visit our website at www.thesecretteachings.info or email me at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
Alex Exum. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of The Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to The Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We are here with John Egan, and we're talking about his book, Between Love and Hate, The Devil is Real. Actually, we've been talking about his dating books that he's been real successful with, but I don't know. Like I said, I get lost in that subject sometimes, but we do eventually got to move on into this event that happened, and I know that's what people are waiting on, but I will say I'm probably going to pick up your book. It wouldn't hurt, wouldn't be a bad idea.
I'll send you a copy. Just give me an address. I'll sign it and send it to you. And remember, a signed copy you could sell on eBay for like $40 or $50.
Really? Actually, the signed copies are going for more?
Yeah, so I didn't even realize that. So my wife was on eBay, and she goes, I saw your book on eBay sold for $40 or $50. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, a signed copy sells for $40 and sometimes $50. I was like, are you serious? She goes, yeah, I'm serious. Okay, let's put some signed copies on eBay ourselves.
But, yeah, after my divorce, I did get into that, though. Because, when you get divorced for the first time, when you feel that heartache, you don't ever want to go through that kind of stuff again. So I got, into super problem-solving mode. And I'm always trying to control everything. So naturally, I picked up a bunch of books and went through a few of them. But the one guy's name, I think it was John Columnist or something, his stuff actually did work. And it's as long as you're not being somebody else that as long as you're being yourself, you're good.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so important, right?
There's a lot of pickup guys out there. They want you to try to be somebody else that you're not, and that don't work.
No, that's the worst thing you could possibly do. A woman are hardwired to understand, if you're fully yourself or self-centered or trying to be somebody else, that's the worst thing you could possibly do. You know what I mean? Or try to be somebody else. That they could pick up on that in a second. You know what I mean? You just dug a ditch so deep, you're never going to get yourself out of it, But you said you did well with women, so that's good. That confidence. We were talking about confidence. That's one of the biggest turn-ons for women.
Well, I used to think I could wear. I used to wear this T-shirt that said "No means yes," and I thought that was something cool. It didn't really work out for me very well, though.
No means yes. No means yes. Well, nowadays that's going to be really good.
Yeah, that's bad. I done burned that shirt since all that stuff happened.
You got to burn that shirt because there's a whole new fad out there now.
I don't want to kill my show.
Right.
So that is cool though. I mean, if Men's Health and Men's Fitness recognize you in Howard Stern, I think that's really cool, man. I mean, if anybody that's listening could say that, man, I'd love to be on Howard. I figured if I got on Howard Stern, he'd roast me to death. Did he roast you pretty bad?
Well, Howard Stern, you have to know when you first come on, he's going to try to, he knew I was working hard for him out on the field, and he knew that he was having a big show because when we finally got to talk, it was one of his highest rated shows because we just built it up every single week, every day. Howard would say something about me and something like Benji, that fat slob Benji, John Egan just got him 10 dates, and everybody was like, no way he could do that. You know what I mean? Well, what do you see tomorrow? I'm going to give him this ugliest guy. So he was building up the show from the studio, and I was building up the show on the street, So when we finally got together, it was like an explosion, you know what I mean? But he didn't, he didn't burn me at all. He was happy to see me when the only one that was against me was Robin. Robin, she was the one that was like, yeah, Robin. She was like, I don't, you can't. You're not even good looking. She was saying to me, just all kinds of weird things.
She always has to be devil's advocate, though.
I just ignored her. I just wanted to talk to Howard anyway.
Robin's my favorite. I can't believe she did that to you. Yeah,
she's a nice lady. She just was trying to put a twist on it. But when Howard was like bam, bam, bam with this, he just went one-on-one, and we had a lot of footage. We had a lot of funny footage. You know what I mean? So we just went for like an hour and a half or 2 hours of doing that show, and it just turned out to be one of his highest.
Well, he built his whole show around attraction.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, so if a guy comes on and says that he could, get a bunch of women on and attract them or whatever, and says, you got the keys to all this stuff, I'm sure he's going to be all over it. Now, can we dig this show up? Like, if we find, is it on an archive somewhere? I'm sure it's somewhere.
I have it on tape. I could probably send you that whole tape, maybe.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I
think
it's
on. People told me they saw it on YouTube. I never really looked for it on YouTube. The only one other. This is like as a side note. When Howard was at K-Rock, when I would go into the city in the morning, you go into there and you got to get past. And there's a lot of beautiful models and women trying to get up to see Howard. So when you go into the lobby, they're allowed to be in the lobby, but you can't get past the security. So I go up to the security. They see I'm a guest. I have to come on. I have to do things there. But once I get past the security, they walk me over to the elevator. All these beautiful girls would come over and say, "Could you take me up to see Howard? Come on, bring me up to see Howard." I was like, "No, I'm here on business. I'm not doing that." You know what I mean? This is a big shot here for me. I'm not going to bring. But all these women are just dying to get up there to be on the Howard Stern show and do anything that he wants them to do too. It's amazing.
It's kind of crazy though. Now that you're on all these, you've been on all these paranormal. Have you been on Coast to Coast yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been on Coast. You've been on Midnight in the Desert, KGRA.
Yeah.
Been on a lot of shows. Now you're here on the Fringe FM for the first time. Yeah. And I got to say, when you started this talk with the dating thing, I thought, oh, here we go. This guy's just going to plug his books away, right? But I got to tell you.
No, I'm not plugging that book anymore.
No. I got to tell you, I'm interested.
Oh, okay.
You brought back my old. The 20s have sparked in me again. It brought back my old days.
Oh, no kidding.
But
I'm not really.
But here's the thing. You got to know this about me before we start this conversation. Now, I told you before the show that I'm more of like a mystic type Christian. See, so I don't really believe in hell, to be honest with you. Not the literal hell, but it's a belief thing, so I'm open to your story and what you're going to say.
Okay. I hope that you just listen to my story and take it for whatever it's worth. But
sure.
Every word of it is true, though. That's it. And we'll try, if you'd like, we could try to even begin to get into how this happened and why this happened and what I learned from it. It's so, I think, important for people to understand today of this whole thing that happened. Do you want to start with that?
Absolutely. I mean, if this stuff is real, I think it's important that everybody knows about it.
Oh, I believe that at the bottom of my heart now. Because I said I used to be skeptical, but now I'm 100% sure. So I live here in New Jersey, and I live like on an acre of property. It's a beautiful home. It's built on a hill. It's like a 130-foot driveway. You come in, and the garages are on the left, so you have to turn your car to the left, and you pull into the garage.
You live in the Hamptons?
No, I live in no. In the middle of New Jersey. I live right by Colts Neck. So, and then there's a door that goes into the garage too that you could just walk in if you don't want to open up the garage doors and pull in. So now that's and then there's a metal door between the garages and the basement. And I had 3 boys growing up here. So as they got older, they wanted more space. So I had the basement finished. I had it split in half, and I made an apartment down there. So my one boy who kind of outgrew his room, he lived down there. He went to college. He moved out. My second boy did the same thing, and my third boy did the same thing. He moved down. He went to college. He moved out, but he wanted to come back to start his own business. So he's still in the house now. So it's me, my wife, and Johnny. So that so everything's going fine. Like we talked about, the book sold so well. I could retire. I retired young. I had a prayer life. That's what I concentrated on, and my artwork. My artwork, by the way, I don't know if you've touched on it, but I'm in Ripley's, believe it or not. I did a sculpture about a year and a half ago. I got into every newspaper and magazine, including USA Today. Actually, one of the pages on my website where you could buy the book, John-Egan, EAGAN.com, you could see my wife is in charge of the Adoration Chapel here at the church. When Jesus is put into a monstrance, you burn candles. When they burn down, you're supposed to throw them out.
Are you Catholic or are you?
I'm Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, little bit known to me, she's saving these candles in boxes. So I look in the boxes and I said, "What are you doing with all these little candles? What are you waiting for, like a 45-minute blackout? What are we going to do with these candles?" She goes, "These candles are so special. They kept Jesus company. I didn't have the heart to throw them out. You're an artist. Why don't you do something with them?" And I think, okay, maybe that's true. Maybe I can do something with these things. I think about it. So I melt them all down to like a 50-pound block. And because I have this ability to draw and paint and sculpt, just this little talent that I guess God gave me, a little part of my brain that somehow it just works out beautiful. I dug out a full life-size bust of Jesus, and the church the people started talking about the church wanted to see it. They bring it to the church. Thousands of people are coming over there. The newspapers are coming over there. It gets in all the newspapers. On my website, I even have pictures of the newspapers that I was in. Ripley's Believe It or Not sees it. They come over. They say, we want to buy it and put it in our museums. I said, you're not buying it unless you got $1 million, because I'm not selling it. So it's in their 2018 edition of Ripley's Believe It or Not. I'm in that book. And I'm not in there. They wanted to put this in their museum. So I have the ability to paint and draw everything I see right down to the last detail. Oh, I'm also, my wife says to me one day, the big boys are on the phone for you. I go, who's the big boys? She goes, USA Today. I go, yeah, that's right. They're the big boys. So in USA Today has, you would think a publication that big, worldwide, that big, would put a full page of my artwork in there, but they did. So that went all around the world too, like about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I see it on the website. Yeah, back in 2015, right? It was on USA Today. Okay.
60s, yeah. So anyway, I'm good at art. So what I see, I could draw and I could paint. So now everything's going fine for me, and I'm working on my artwork, and I like writing too. So I'm doing that, and just out of the blue. Now I have, there's a basement. There's steps that go up to the basement into a kitchen. I mean, from the garage, you just open the garage. There's a metal door there. And you come up to the kitchen, and then on the other side of the kitchen is the living room. I have a sectional couch, like most people do, a glass top table right next to me on my right side, with a lamp on it, like most people have. So I'm sitting there one day, and my wife is out, and my son's working, and I hear that metal door, like you could almost hear it when somebody comes in, but I heard that door slam like so hard that I was thinking to myself, I don't even think my wife could slam that door that hard, and I don't think my son, why he would do something like that, unless he had like a car accident or his girlfriend broke up with him or something. So I look down there and the lights are out. So I run into my office here. I have a security system, so I'm looking in the cameras, and I'm rolling back the cameras. I'm trying to see if anybody was on the property. I'm looking at the camera. I have cameras on the garage doors and the back door. I'm looking through them, and nobody was on the property. None of those doors were open. So I'm thinking to myself, what could have made that? What could have slammed that door like that? So I turn the lights on, and I go downstairs, and I start looking around. Joe, and I look through everything. I look under the steps. I look in my son's apartment. I look under his bed. I look in his closet. I look in the furnace room. Now, I'm convinced there's nobody down there. So I come back upstairs. I'm a little shaken, but I had this feeling that some menacing, something sinister, something ominous was in the house. Something like evil. I just had this feeling, and it really was off-putting. And it just was the weirdest feeling. So I came back upstairs, and I sat back down again. And then a few minutes later, I hear like the steps that go from the basement up to the kitchen, like crushing those steps. One very slowly, one at a time, crushing them. I'm thinking to myself, I just looked down there. I know nobody was down there. How could somebody be coming up the steps? So I get up again off the couch, and I look, and it's still dark, and I turn the lights on, and there's nobody there. So, but I still felt this terrible, inauspicious, kind of threatening feeling from this evil thing that was I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know. I was very naive about everything. I didn't realize this thing had a methodology it was using on me, just to show me that it was in this house and it was possessing this house. So now I'm like worried, but I don't want to say anything. And my wife comes home, and the first thing she says to me is, something wrong with you? Is something wrong with this house? Is just something feels wrong with this house? And I didn't want to say anything to her because I had no idea at the time what was going on, Joe, be honest with you. So I just kind of like tried to just say nothing about it. And then she was like, just complaining about how the house felt. And so then
now I missed part of the story because you're going kind of fast, and I understand that you got a lot to talk about. That's totally fine. But I missed part of the story. Is this house you live in now, or was this the house you were looking at, or was it? No.
I live in this house for about.
So this is the house you live in right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I raised 3 kids here too. Yeah. Okay, so then, so she's home, and okay, so Johnny's still working, so he works, then he goes out after work, so he doesn't really come home a lot. So we're sitting on the couch again, and then we hear just something walking up the steps again, crushing those steps. Not like somebody 170 pounds, or my wife's like 120 pounds. Something like maybe you would think would be like 300 pounds, as they would be crushing those steps like that. And my wife goes to me, she's sitting on the sectional couch, and she goes, "Is that Johnny?" She goes to me. So I knew that noise that I heard this afternoon is the same kind, and I go, I don't know if he's home or not. She goes, and she yells, "Johnny, is that you?" And then she gets up the sectional, she walks into the kitchen, looks down the steps, turns the lights on, she comes back, "That wasn't Johnny," she says to me. "What was that?" She goes to me, and I go, I don't know, Lillian. I didn't want to say what I thought it was. So I just thought maybe this is just going to go away. You know what I mean? I was just hoping that. So it started to go until I didn't realize at the time, Joe, that this creature was using its methodology on her. Now it was telling her. It already told me in its way how that it was here and it was possessing this house. And now it's telling my wife, is showing my wife the same thing. And we're sitting there, we could hear it kind of walking down the hallway and then slamming some of the bedroom doors. And she was like beside herself about what is that? And you're going to go check to see what that is? And I know I could check, but there's nothing there. And then we come back, there's just nothing there, you know, and it was very off-putting for her too. So this goes on for a couple of weeks, and even at night, you know, you're in your room, you lock your door, and everything, all the doors are locked, and it's dark in your room. You can finally go to sleep at night, and you kind of feel like you're safe, right?
So this wasn't a one-time occurrence. This thing's been in your house for weeks now, doing this stuff.
Yeah, right. So this is
now. Do you have your kids heard it by this point?
Yeah, I want to tell you what happened. So the weirdest, one of the weirdest things is I was sleeping there, and then I wake up to this noise that sounds like a water buffalo breathing very deeply and very heavily, and it wakes me up and it wakes my wife up, and she turns the light on and she goes, "What is that?" She says to me, and I'm like, I still don't know when to tell her what I think it is, and I just say, I don't know, Lillian. I'm just hoping to myself this thing is going to pass or something like that.
It's just a water buffalo. Go back to sleep. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, right in the middle of it.
No.
So now this is going on for a while, and it's been bothering my wife completely. And but this was last summer, so I have a beach house down on Long Beach Island. So we go down there on the weekends, and then some of my extended family comes down there and they hang out and they sleep there, and we have a good time down there. I have a boat down there too. So on the weekends, sometimes Johnny comes with his girlfriend, but this weekend he's not coming. He's staying home. So he calls down at the beach house and he calls my wife and he says, "Are you guys down at the beach house?" And she says, "Yeah, we're down there. Is anybody here?" So she goes, "Nobody's there." Well, he says, "When I'm downstairs, I hear something really heavy walking around upstairs. And when I go upstairs to investigate," he goes, "I hear it downstairs. And I hear it slamming my door, his apartment door. And he says, I could hear my closet door." He has a glass closet door. "I could hear it rolling back and forth and just back and forth like that." And then my wife says to me, "Well, when we get home, I think your father's going to have to talk to you." But Joe, this was again, this creature was using its methodology on Johnny. Now he's telling him now he's here and he's possessing the house and he's taking over. I didn't realize these things have a method.
Now, how old was Johnny at the time?
Now Johnny's about 26
when this happened.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He's a grown man. He's a graduated college. He just got a great job. They offer him $100,000 a year. He was like number one in his class for everything. I don't know where he got his brains. It must be from my wife.
I wonder, huh?
So he just moved out, but he was here the whole time that this happened. So she says to me, "When we go home, we're going to have to talk." So it's like, I don't know, what am I going to talk about? I don't know how to handle something like this, and I'm just hoping that maybe this will just pass. So we go home, and sometimes, and like he'll come up for dinner once in a while if he comes home from work early enough, and we would sit there together. Now, there's no way that the three of us can have a hallucination exactly at the same time, no matter if we're doing a drug or if we're having an allergic reaction to a medication or we have some kind of disease that makes us hallucinate. And what you could ask any psychiatrist in the world, no three of us are not going to have the exact same hallucination at the same time, hearing something coming up the steps, hearing somebody slamming the doors in the back. So this creature was letting us all know now that it's here, it's possessing the house, and it's in charge, I think. But I was very naive at the time. So my wife tells me, you're going to have to go now to the church where we go to church, and you have to get some priest to come over here and do an exorcism on this house. And I was like, Lillian, I don't think I could really do that. I mean, we know these people for like 20 years, Joe.
Yeah, but I mean, you see it in the movies all the time, but is that really, you don't really go straight to your priest about this stuff. You don't want to be embarrassed about it, right?
It's I don't want everybody. I mean, they come here every spring. We have like a garden party, and all the priests are here, and all the parishioners are here, and they all have a nice time. And then they come here for meetings, and they come here for dinner. I mean, now I'm going to go there and say, I think my house is possessed by a demon, and everybody's going to start talking about us and how I'm crazy or something.
It'll be all over the church then, huh?
Yeah, so I can't really go there and do that. So I'm thinking, let's think of some other way, maybe. Maybe this is just going to pass. I was saying to my wife. She said, "Look, if you can't do anything about this, I'm just going to move into the beach house. I'm going to live there until you do something about it." So I was like, I don't know what to do about it, to be honest with you. So now, like, I'm home again by myself, right, Joe? And this is when it actually happened to me. So I'm sitting because I have time to do my prayers. So in the morning I do prayers, in the afternoon I do prayers, and at night I pray. So I do have a pretty good prayer life, and I do pray for all those souls that I knew, and I'll pray for them every day until I die. That they don't go to hell until I pray for them. I just ask God not to do that. So I'm sitting on the sectional again. I tell you, I have that glass table. Because I'm Catholic, I pray a lot on my rosary. So I'm done with my rosary. I put it on the glass table, Joe. And I'm sitting there in the chair. And the right on my right, between the glass table and the wall unit, there's probably about 8 foot of space over there. And that whole space on my right starts to ripple, like the air starts to ripple. And I'm thinking, I move to the edge of the chair, and I think it's just something wrong with my eyes. So I start to squint and blink my eyes to kind of clear my eyes up, but it wasn't anything wrong with my eyes. That the whole air was starting to ripple, like if you throw a rock through water and you see how it ripples. Yeah. This is what was happening here. And from the rippling, I see a giant wall of blue, raging fire. But I can't hear it and I can't smell it. I just see a giant wall of blue. And I say blue because I've never seen fire that was blue. And we'll talk about this fire, what I learned about it. So I've seen a wall of blue fire, but I don't feel any heat coming off it. I don't see any smoke coming from it. It's just the weirdest fire I've ever seen in my life. So now I'm looking at it, and like in shock of why is this? But I kind of thought this must be it. This must be what this creature's here doing. This is it. I'm thinking to myself. But I start seeing what I thought in my mind was coral, like it looked like coral, pieces of coral slowly coming through the fire. All I see is like 1 foot, 2 foot of coral, then another pieces of coral coming through very slowly. So I get up and I stand in front of it, and this creature is coming in like, I don't know if you ever went to a board meeting, Joe, and all the subordinates come in and they have their notes and they're fixing their tie and they're nervously fixing their skirt and they're waiting for the CEO to come in. And when the CEO finally arrives, he comes in on his own time. He owns the room. He comes in when he feels like coming in. He sits at the superior seat there. He starts when he feels like starting. That's how this creature came in. When I say this is the antithesis of any kind of a apparition I've ever saw or read about. I mean, all the things I've ever seen on TV, when something like this happens, is like lightning and wind and chairs flying around and like animal noises. This was nothing like that.
I'm just curious. Did this happen at night or did it just happen at all different times?
Middle of the day.
Middle of the day, okay.
The middle of the day. Like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, like I said, you see on TV, this creature was so intelligent. If it came in like that, I probably would have left, Joe. I probably would have had to run out of the house if it came in like crazy like that. So it didn't do that. It didn't want me to run out of the house because it had a mission and a message. So I'm standing there in front of it and looking, and I finally start seeing a head emerging out from this blue flame. Now we have fire, you know what I mean, on Earth, and it's a miracle in itself. This is another miracle in itself, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I mean, our fire, it keeps us warm. We cook with it. You could forge a couple of different steels together, and that third steel is even stronger. It's like a miracle in itself. This fire also was a miracle in itself. A miracle of what I believe now is chastisement. I mean, I think it was created by God, this heating, burning, detestation for sin that this creature lives in. But so now I see a full head. So like I said earlier, if you go to john-egan.com, EAGAN, you can see a visual of what we're looking at, because I burned that image into my mind while I was standing there looking at it, because I knew if I survived this, I'm going to draw this creature, because I could do that. So it comes all the way through. Like I said, it came in like he owned the place. It didn't come in like roaring and animal noises and like lightning and flashing and chairs flying around. Nothing like that. Nothing that would scare me out of this house. So he comes all the way through. It has black eyes, like you can see in the picture. It didn't have like pupils. It didn't have like any whites of its eyes in it. It was just pure black eyes. And it stood there confrontational to me. Like when most guys talk, you're on a little bit of an angle most of the time. You don't stare right in somebody's face when you're talking to them. This is what this creature was confrontationally staring me right in my face.
Not unless you're interrogating them or something. You don't do that. Yeah, you're right.
No, not normally. So now, so that's like Joe, if I was in prison. Let's say I'm in prison for the rest of my life for a crime I didn't do, and you come to visit me or anybody comes to visit me, the first thing I'm going to say to them is, get me out of here. I didn't do this. I'm innocent. This creature had he owned his area that he was in. He owned it. It was like whatever this punishment is that he is in, whatever this chastisement is, whatever this blue flame is, he deserved it. He didn't complain one bit about it. His whole top of his head was like a shell shape. If you look at the picture at the website, it was like a horseshoe crab kind of a head, and that's where all these horns were coming out of. That's the thing that was kind of weird. It looked like what you might imagine was a hierarchy demon in a whatever chain of command that might exist in hell, because it had a lot of horns coming out of his head, coming straight out of the front of his head. It was like 100% hatred. It wasn't like 99.9% hatred. It was like 100% hatred. I could see it in its face and its eyes. And I tell people, if you live with hatred in your heart, get it out before you pass from this fourth dimension into that fifth dimension that we were talking about. This creature had the power to create a fifth dimension and move through it. Like, we're never going to have that kind of technology.
Did he talk to you at all or say anything to you?
I'm going to tell you.
Well, let me take a break real quick before you get in, because I know once this thing starts talking, we're going to be locked in here. So,
okay.
Now, before we take a break, is this thing still around?
No, I want to tell you
what it did before it left,
all right. How it got it out. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, well, we'll be right back with John Egan. We're actually getting into the story now, guys. Pretty interesting stuff. Be right back after these words.
Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Ahoy there, Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're here to take you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, mythology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific. That's 9 to 11 Central, right here on The Fringe FM.
And remember, don't feed the archons, feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we'll include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words." End quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to GetTheTea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Don't forget, tomorrow night we're going to be speaking with Mr. Calvin Parker about his abduction incident that happened in Pascagoula. Wednesday night we're going to be speaking about Beast in the UK, cryptids. Thursday night, you asked for them, so the Ghostbuster gals are going to be here as well. So it's going to be an awesome week. And then the next week it's going to be even better. It's going to be even better. So Eric, you're doing an awesome job, man. I really appreciate it. We're here with John Egan. We're talking about his new book, Between Love and Hate, The Devil is Real. And you just got through talking about this thing that came into your house. You know, it came through what you call, I guess, the fifth dimension or whatever.
nothing that we ever have the technology for now or forever. I don't think we'll ever have that kind of technology. We are in the fourth dimension.
In the fifth dimension.
We're going to be in that fifth dimension. Once we leave our bodies and we become a spirit, we're going to be into that fifth dimension. But this creature was so powerful and intelligent. It's not like what you see on TV or in magazines and running around with a pitchfork. I mean, every book or magazine, the devil is red. He's running around with a pitchfork and the fires are red. This was blue fires, and the demon itself was blue. And I also wanted to bring up one other thing, that I never invited this creature in here. I never had a seance.
No Ouija boards or nothing like that?
Never had a Ouija board, never used tarot cards, and I don't suggest anybody ever does that, because once you do that, you're opening a door for this creature to come in, and you're giving him permission to do his worst. I didn't give this creature permission to do anything. And I believe that because it only got its head through that wall of blue fire that it was in, that was one of the weirdest things that I was looking at, besides him being so weird. You can see a picture of him at John-Egan, EAGAN.com. You can see that what it actually looked like, and there's so much unfathomable things that happened during this apparition, his head was like a crib,
looks like a goat's head with more horns on it.
Yeah, like a star. It was like some kind of weird shell or something like that at the top of his head, and he had a pointy nose. But his face, like, it's in the middle of this burning chastisement of flame. But I didn't feel the heat. But
was his face blue too?
Yeah, his face was blue, but it had like it's like skin. I didn't talk to it. I didn't say anything to it. I just listened to whatever it wanted to tell me. But it's like, you would think if you're standing in this blaze of fire that your skin would be burnt, but his skin was fine. It's these things are unfathomable. Like, there's no real answer for why, what I was looking at, and I'm sure there is. Someday we'll all understand those answers. But the first thing it said to me was, it stood there, it looked at me straight in the eyes. It was 100% hatred. And like I said earlier, don't leave this planet with any hatred in your heart for your brothers or sisters, your neighbor, any race, nationality, religion. Just get it out of your heart. That's embedded in your soul, because this creature is going to use that. He's going to snare you if you come through that fifth dimension with hatred in you. He's going to show you his empire that's built on hatred. He's going to show you how to use that hatred to alleviate all your pain, because that's what these creatures are doing there. So it's looking at me, and I'm standing there. Just backed up a little bit away from it. And it was like face to face with it. It was confrontational, so it was staring me straight in the eyes. And when you're that looking at something like that, and I could see that its lips moved and said no more. So I wasn't sure. The lips didn't coincide with what I heard, but this creature who has the power to move through to move through a dimension has also had the power, whatever language it speaks, whatever it's doing there, it could translate that for me to understand that it said no more, but its lips didn't look like it said that. You know what I mean? So I was understanding what it was trying to convey to me. And when I thought no more, I was thinking to myself, no more praying,
so it said no more to you, like it didn't move it. You heard it in your mind, or did you hear it audibly?
No. I saw its mouth move, and whatever noise that came out of his mouth, to me it was in English, but it sure didn't look like he said in English no more, whatever language it spoke. And it shows his words with fastidious care. So it's that, and I was thinking to myself, no more. It's just my mind was kind of racing. I wanted to burn this image into my head, because I thought if I survive this, I'm gonna draw this thing, and whatever it says to me, I'm gonna remember every single word. So I was thinking to myself, no more praying, because I do pray a lot. And I'm thinking maybe that's what. Or no more praying for souls. And I'm thinking that's got to be it. It's got to be no more praying for these souls, because souls that are coming in his direction, he doesn't want anything getting in the way of that, or anything trying to stop it. He just wants them to come in in droves, and then nobody to get in the way. So I was like, well.
Now, how close was this thing? Was this thing in your face at this time?
It was probably about 3 feet away. I got up I was sitting on the edge of the seat when I saw the what I thought was coral coming through, and then I got up off my chair and I stood in front of it. I was about 3 feet in front of it, and then finally its full head came through, but it stopped there. So I felt a little bit okay about that it stopped. It was in those flames.
I would too.
Yeah, because I felt that maybe it can't go completely through it. I always thought, where is hell? I don't know if you think that, or I think I know. Where is it? Under the earth? Is it under the universe? Where? I mean, for me, it was like this. It was a dimension right here. You could just step one step and be in there with it. I mean, it's just like hell could be almost anywhere you are if you're in that state of. If your soul is in that state, you could just be right there. So, I mean, I'm looking at these flames because it's amazing. And like I say, we have a miracle of fire. This was another kind of a miracle of fire because it wasn't burning anything. There wasn't any smoke coming off it. And I can't hear it like when your fire is burning, you could hear crackling of wood or something. It was nothing like that. I couldn't hear one thing from it. And it said to me, only your spirit was going to feel the effect of this fire. And I thought, yeah, that really makes sense because if I'm not a spirit right now, and I don't feel the effects of this kind of chastisement kind of fire, so it made sense to me. It really did when it said that. So I felt like, okay, I understand, and I'm still like in a state of shock, and yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, I didn't want to answer it. I didn't want to say one word to it. I didn't want to have an argument with it or anything like that. I was just going to stand there because it didn't seem like it's going to get me. It could. I mean, it looked like it had the power of a lion. It looked like it could take those protrusions coming out of its forehead and just shove you right into the wall with those things.
So you're probably full of adrenaline at this point, right? Just freaked out.
I'm sure I was. Yeah, I'm sure I was. So it says, I thought this was like a threat. It said, I am many, and many more wicked than I, it said. And like I said, it chose its words with fastidious care. Like every word I understood. And when his mouth moved, it didn't look like it said that, but I understood what it was saying. But I thought maybe, is this some kind of a threat? Like he's here now. He's telling me, stop trying to pray for souls. That's what I'm getting from it. He said, no more. I thought that what he meant. Leave those souls alone that are coming his direction. Whatever happens between this creature and God, like before time began. I mean, we read the Bible, and I was always so, I didn't really believe all these stories that much. I mean, I kind of, you just, what do you do? You read the Bible, you hear that God created all these angels. A third of them, like these creatures, like maybe this hierarchy demon, convinces like a third of the angels in heaven to follow. They want to probably break away after suffering, but it's not. They want to break out on their own somehow, and they wind up in this chastisement. But I think it's that's their empire now. An empire built on hatred. And when we pass on, like I wasn't a spirit yet, so I didn't have the effects of the fire that was there. But when we pass on, we're going to be alone. We're going to be like with no support. You're going to be standing in front of this creature, and it's like it's intelligent as can be. It's prepared to offer you interesting options. I mean, you might even be convinced that it could bewitch your spirit easily. It has many wiles and deceptions. It knows how to seduce, entice, and beguile your soul.
So, sorry, we were having some audio issues there, but
oh, I'm sorry.
Of course, when you start talking about this stuff, you're going to have a little audio issues. Let me ask you. Okay, so this is a lot to process at this moment. So did this thing tell you what its name was?
No, I didn't ask either. It just said, I am many, and many more wicked than I. That's all it was going to tell me about that. Like I said, it had a methodology. It knew what it was doing. It wasn't like it didn't come here as a guest or passing through.
Probably a good thing you didn't get its name, actually. The more I think of it.
Yeah, I would think so. I never had thought to even ask it. I didn't want to upset it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to get it that even maybe it can pass through these fires. There was a lot going on there that I was protecting my own self. You know what I mean? Thinking because it didn't want me to leave. It didn't want to scare me out of here, so it didn't do that. It was scary looking. It is a creature now, or maybe it was created beautiful back before time began by God, but now it's 180 degrees. The opposite of whatever was created by, and it's 100% hatred. So I tell people, don't leave here with any hatred in your heart for your brothers or sisters or neighbors or race, religion, nationality. That thing is embedded in your soul. This thing is going to show you its empire built on hatred. It's going to show you how to use that hatred to alleviate all your pain. Because people who hate people are in pain. Like it's going to show you how to use that hatred. So just like,
how did your wife and kids see this though? Did they come Did they see
no,
it
they
too?
didn't see the actual apparition. No, this was just meant for me. It happened. It was just meant for me at that time. So I don't want to forget to tell you what it did before it left. So we have time for that, I think. Yeah. So okay. So now I understand. It's there. I'm looking at this giant blue flame, and why blue? I don't know, but that's what it was. So I had to tell you that's what it was. It was blue. It wasn't red like you see devils. And you see devils in books. They're red. This was a blue. And that part is unfathomable. Why it had like a face that wasn't burnt, that could be existing in a wall of, I don't know how far that wall of flame goes back, but existing in the flame, it owned it. Like I said, for him it was just. It was like this punishment, he seemed to like be fine with it. That's the weirdest part of this place called hell. I guess these creatures are fine with it. They're going to exist there for all of eternity. So I guess there has to be a way.
You got to adapt eventually, I guess.
Must be. I don't know if this thing is still morphing or developing. I don't know if those horns are going to get bigger, or I have no idea. All I know is what I saw there. So I learned. It didn't want me to interfere with whatever souls that are coming in this direction. It wants them badly. I don't know whatever happened between this creature and God, but it now wants these souls badly. I don't know. Maybe that hurts God. I have no idea why it wants these souls so badly to keep it company for all of eternity. I mean, it's scary. It's so scary. I mean, we have to love God, but we got to fear His power. I mean, God has the power to put you in that chastisement for all of eternity and never think twice about you. That's like unfathomable. If you think about it, it could make you almost go crazy to think that that's possible. And even now I know for sure it was. I mean, I've read about it like you have in the Bible, but now I saw it, and it's so scary that I want people to know that. I mean, whatever their religion is, go back to it, go find a way towards God. Keep God number one in your life. That's the most major thing you have to do. I mean, you could have all the money in the world. As long as God is number one, He doesn't care. I mean, you could have a beautiful home, and you could have beach houses, you could have all the cars you want. But as long as He's number one, that doesn't matter. So keep Him number one. Stay away from any of this stuff like we're talking about seances or anything like that. Stay away, as far away from that as you can. So now I understand what it was doing. I knew what it was saying. I had this apparition. Now I told you after I say my rosary, I put him on the glass top table. And the glass top table is only a few feet from where his head was. So it's the whole time, it never took its eyes off of me. The whole time it was there. It just stared straight at me in my eyes. And I kind of had to stare straight back at it because I didn't know what else to look at. I wasn't going to, you know what I mean? I was so lost in this apparition. It looks down at my rosaries, looks at me again, and his mouth started to blow up. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And Joe, he spit a saliva. I saw saliva. This wasn't like transparent or anything. This creature was there, like 100% there, like if I was standing right in front of you. It wasn't like transparent. I saw saliva fly out of his mouth, and he spit right on my rosaries. And I imagine that was a symbol of prayer, which I imagine whatever any symbol of prayer is, he probably hates. But he showed me how much he hated my prayers and spit on it. And then it looked straight back at me again, and I was wondering, now what? You know what I mean? That passed through. What else can pass through? I wasn't sure. Is it coming this way or is it going that way? What is it going to do? And it just looked at me, and just slowly, as it came in, like it owned the place, it just slowly backed out exactly the same way, just as slow as can be, looking straight at me in my eyes as it backed out through into those flames again. And then its horns, what it looked like a coral, all passed the same way, very slowly. That blue wall of fire just sort of to dissipate, and then the rippling came back for a minute, and then the rippling dissipated. And I stood there, Joe, trying to burn this image into my mind, and I'm looking at my rosaries like, this creature, how does this creature, I'm thinking to myself, which is unfathomable again, how's it standing in the middle of a blaze of flame have saliva in its mouth? How is that possible, and not have a burnt face? And so I started poking my rosary because I'm thinking it's got to be covered with this spit that it spit onto my rosary. But when I started poking at it and I picking up a little bit, I think there's going to see a big, but there's nothing there. It's the weirdest thing. So it goes. So that goes. So I'm thinking to myself.
So did you get any more hauntings or steps or anything like that?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking to myself, okay, It did. It
I'd
became
call a priest if I was you.
No, but this is what I learned from the Bible. Jesus tells me I could raise the dead, heal the sick, expel demons in his name. So I kept that in my mind because I don't know what Jesus tells me. I believe I take that to the bank. So I go to my church in the morning. I receive communion. I have Jesus inside me, I feel. I come home. My wife keeps like a holy water in the kitchen. So I take the holy water and I go through every single room and I say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave this premises immediately. And I throw the holy water. I throw the holy water in the living room, in the kitchen, in all the bedrooms, downstairs in the basement, in the furnace room, in the closets, up in the attic. And when I go to the last bedroom and I'm throwing it around and I'm saying that, the curtains and the blinds just swish like that. They moved, swished, and I felt like it just left the house. And that was like over a year ago, Joe. And I haven't even had like a bump in the night since that happened. And my wife is completely happy now. and my son was fine. He didn't really know what to think. But he moved out though. Anyhow, since then he got a great job and he moved out. So, but my wife is fine with it now. She's very at ease. She feels the same way. And when she started questioning me about it, she said, I was saying, it's gone. She said, how do you know that? I know it's gone. How do you know? Well, what happened? And when I went to tell her what happened, the words choked my throat up. I don't even know how to explain it. I never had that in my life. And I said to her, listen, I'm going to draw what I saw. You know, I'm a good artist, and I'm going to type out every single detail of what happened, and that's how you're going to know. And then you're going to read it, and that's how, so I did that. And she was like, "Is that?" As I was drawing it, she said, "Is that what it looked like? Is that what was in this house?" And I was like, "That's what it looked like." So I drew that picture that you see at John-Egan, EAGAN.com. That's the cover of the book now. It's a 350-page book. It's an e-book. You just press a couple buttons. It goes right into your phone or your computer. So I type it all out.
You're not afraid of that plug, right? I'll give you that.
So I type it out. So she begins to read it, and then she's asking me questions about it. And it took me months to actually go through every detail with her of what exactly happened. And she would read it to me, and is that what he said? Is that what happened? And I would say, yeah. And I would try to explain it to him. Like I couldn't explain it the way I explained it to you today. I even have trouble even today talking about it. And I still have nightmares about it. I mean, I can't say I don't. I think about it a lot, but thank God it's not here.
You got rid of it.
It's gone. Oh, I know that for sure. It's gone. And I just hope it never comes back. I hope the next thing that ever comes here is an angel. I don't ever want to be visited by something like that. Well, because he said he's many and many more wicked than I don't want anything more wicked than that. You know what I mean? Who knows what that would feel.
Now, can I ask you a question? Just man to man here.
Right.
You know? And I'm not, look, I already told you my beliefs and stuff, and you got your beliefs, and believe me, I respect them.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much.
I respect yours too, believe me.
You have no idea how much I respect your beliefs, actually. But what I'm having an issue with this whole thing, let's just call it the Old Testament, all right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't have any issues with Jesus, what he said, or some people call him Yeshua ben Joseph. He's been called a lot of different things. We know him as Jesus because that's how we were brought up, right?
Right, yeah.
So you and I have both experienced that name work. I'll just say that. That name's worked for me, too, in my life. But here's the thing. And here's the thing I'm having the most trouble with. Love is the one thing that I've talked to a lot of people about. You know, you say it's love and hate. Some people have said the polar opposites are love and fear because hate comes from fear. Either way, it's all true. Still there, you know?
Yeah.
Now, why do you got your parents, did you have your mom and dad, did they love you a lot? Right?
Sure, they did, yeah.
I'm sure you've been asked this question, so you probably know where I'm going with this. This is where I have a problem with traditional Christianity. And I'm not saying your experience wasn't real, but my problem with it is if there is a God somewhere that wants you to love him like the way he's saying, and if you don't love him, or if you don't do what you're told, or you don't become saved, or however you look at it, you won't just get a whipping like your parents gave you. Matter of fact, you won't just get burned like Hitler did to the Jews. You'll get burned for eternity. Now, ask yourself this. Why would you want to worship someone like that?
I believe now, Joe, it's our choice. Like this creature chose to be there. It seems to be fine with it. That's the thing that I learned.
He's probably, that creature's thinking the same thing as I am, right? You know, like, I'm the wicked. No, I get it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's like I said to you, he owned it. He seemed to be fine with it. Whatever punishment it's not really burning his skin like I always thought. You know what I always thought. It seems like that's its empire built on on its hatred. It seems like that's what it's fine with. It's not like he made that decision, and I believe people make that. That's what I try to tell them. Get that hatred is not. It's just if you want to make that decision to hate somebody and you never ever want to forgive them, you're not going to go with people who can forgive their brothers and sisters.
A lot of baggage.
Yeah. It's a lot of baggage. It's bad for your health and your physical body, let alone embedded into your soul. Like I'm just saying, you're not like the people who are able to forgive their brothers and sisters, no matter how many times they've hurt them, or forgive their neighbor, or forgive any race, nationality, or religion. They're able to. You're not going to go there because you don't want to do that. You want to do what this creature does. He wants to hate. So you're going to make that decision. You're going to go there, and then not only are you going to go there, this thing is so intelligent, like it's just going to snare you right up because it could bewitch your spirit down. It could tell you, it's going to show you its empire built on hatred. You're going to make that decision yourself. It's really not God sending you there. You're going to make that decision for yourself that you might want to go there and you might want to live your life for eternity and learning how to use your hatred to alleviate your pain. And this might be an option for you. Like I said, they're prepared to offer you interesting options, and that's going to be your own decision. It's not like God is going to send you there or say, you committed mortal sin against me, you're condemned for hell for all eternity to burn in hell. No, it's going to be like you made that decision here. You're going to be fine with it. You're going to be own it just like this creature owns it, but you're going to have to become that creature. Like you're not going to be your jovial self, drinking, laughing, doing drugs and everything. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to turn into your beauty or whatever we got from being created by God. Like this thing was probably beautiful at one time as an angel. Now it's a creature. You're going to make that decision and you're going to go with it and you're going to live for eternity just like that. But you just never could pass back again once you decide to make that decision. And it's going to be your decision. It's not going to. God is just open arms and loving. But I say like we have to love him, but we have to fear that the power that he has. You know what I mean? We just can't like atheists tell me, I thought about it and there's no God. You know what? You didn't like if you're going to be with him for all of eternity, this God is infinite. So when something is infinite, even the surface is infinite. You can't even scratch the surface of something infinite. It's going to show. It's a creator. It's a giant power. And it's for all of eternity. It's going to be creating. You're going to see all these wonderful creations, but you're never going to, you could be there 10 billion years, but there won't really be time. But just imagine, you're never going to be able to put God in the box and go, oh, that's what God is? No, never, because this thing is infinite. We're only finite. Our brains are only finite. Even when we're a spirit, we're still going to be finite, but we're going to be blessed and getting graces to understand this giant, beautiful creator for all of eternity, and it's going to be wonderful to see everything that it does. And as long as you want to be there, you're going to be there. But I mean, if you want to go the opposite way, he's not going to stop you. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. There's only two places you can go, right? After you're dead.
I believe that, unless there's I hear on TV and stuff like this, souls who are lost and they don't know where to go and they're haunting houses and stuff. And eventually. Yeah. The sun's going to burn out. That house is not going to be here. You know what I mean? Maybe it might take a billion years. You might haunt.
So it says, but the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable and the murderers, the whoremongers, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all liars. So if you've lied, you're in trouble. Shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
The only thing good that we have going for us is that no matter how many times we sin here on this planet, if we ask God for his forgiveness, we're forgiven. The thing about those creatures, we understand that they were closer to God than we are and understand God better than we are. So when they decided they didn't want to be with him anymore, they knew him better than we do, and so they got their chance and then they were, okay, you don't want to be here, then don't be here, you know what I mean? So they're gone forever. But for us, anything we do, no matter if the worst of us sinners, as Jesus says, is the biggest the souls that I want, the worst of the sinners. So we could do anything. I mean, it's not that you want to do anything bad, but if you could do anything you want, I mean, be the worst sinner here. But I mean, if you ask God for forgiveness, you're forgiven. That's the beauty of His compassion. You know what I mean? Of God. So that's one thing that we have going for us. No matter what we do in this lifetime, if we, I mean, over and over and over again, He knows we sin over and we're a slave to our sins. You know.
Did you talk about this on Howard Stern?
Howard Stern. They've called me a few times, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do just yet. So I'm just.
Well, if they've called you, you tell them, say, you know, you should really talk to that Joe Roop guy. He's an interesting character. You know, that's what you should do. If you were a Christian, you would do that.
I would do that for you. Believe me, Joe. I will. I can't. He's at Sirius Satellite. He was only like an hour away from me. They called me a couple of times about other things that I did. You know, I did Sirius Satellite. Every one of those, each one of those rooms that Sirius Satellite has a radio station. It's like a small room about 20 feet long. Howard Stern's is 2 stories high with a completely open glass front that looks over New York. He's like the king up there. Everybody else's studio is like 20 foot long. He's got two stories.
Hey, you know, I told you I was going to ask you one hard question, and you answered it like a champ. And you know, listen, anytime you want to come back on the show, you let me know.
I'll come back anytime you want, Joe.
I'll hold you to that.
All
right. I don't want to hold you up anymore. And the website, give your website and all your plug away, my friend.
Oh, yeah. So the book, Between Love and Hate, The Devil is Real, is at John-Egan, EAGAN.com. That's where it's a 350-page book. It has all the details of what we were talking about here we didn't get to. It has a lot to it. It teaches you to know thyself. I mean, so many intelligent people in history was trying to get other people to know thyself. This book teaches you to know thyself. Like I met so many people in the nightlife who didn't know their self, who just was, like I say, ships without a rudder, just going in any single direction. This book teaches you to know yourself, how to live. It teaches you so much, and it tells you about this apparition and other types of things that happened to me in my life that even people say make them cry. Actually, I'll send you a copy of it. I don't know if I send you a copy of it.
No, you didn't.
No, I'm going to send you a copy of it.
I'll send you my address.
Okay, yeah, definitely. The email, just send it right to your email.
All right.
So it's an ebook, and that's where you can get it right now. And like I said earlier, I don't know if we didn't talk about this on the air. It'll go to Amazon when I'm ready to bring it there, but I'm not ready right now. I have my other books there.
All right,
but the thing, the other books, other people, you sell like 500,000 copies. Other people just try to sell you a book right in front of where you're trying to sell your book for half the price and a quarter of the price. So I'm not going there with that yet, but I will eventually. But anyway, that's where it is, John-Egan, EAGAN.com. If you're interested in understanding the unknown, if you want to give yourself the gift of understanding the unknown, this is the book that you want to get.
Well, thanks for coming on. We got to take our break into the third hour. It's been a real pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Joe. You were great. You were really great. And I'll come back anytime you want.
All right, brother. We'll be right back, guys.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
How you doing today, guys? This is Garrett Lee.
And this is Randy Warner.
From the Healers and Hellraisers podcast.
A podcast about people.
You're going to hear stories from the enlightening to the frightening.
Told by those who lived it.
Listen right here on the Fringe FM.
Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And on the Fringe Free-For-All, right here on the Fringe FM. Follow the Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at the Fringe FM. The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I am your host, Joe Roop, and we are in the third hour. The phone lines are open. I am very curious if anybody's had any type of experience like that. I'd like to hear about it or your thoughts on that. But we're also here with special guests Dan Lopez and Ryan Gable. Ryan Gable from The Secret Teachings and Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio. So what do you guys think about that?
You can start this one off, Ryan.
Well, I didn't get a chance to listen to the very introduction, but I listened to the rest of the show. And I've heard him other places before. I enjoyed the conversation that you guys had at the very end when you asked him the quote-unquote tough question. And I started thinking about the lake of fire. I think much of it is metaphor and it is symbolic, much like the Egyptians saw that the Nile River connected with the Milky Way and that souls would be transitioned from the heavens into the physical from the spiritual. I think the lake of fire is also a symbolic metaphor for those souls who suffer throughout life and I do agree with him on this note, do manifest and create that hell for themselves. So I think that's something interesting. That's what I was thinking about as the show wrapped up with your guest tonight.
Huh. Well, this thing came through, he said, and said, what did he say? Oh, I know what he said, no more. Now, that's kind of scary if you think about it, because his face was blue. We've been hearing a lot of stuff about blue avians, blue beings, blue aliens. Yahweh is a blue alien, and he's seeing some type of blue apparition. I just wonder if it's connected. Why is everybody seeing blue stuff?
Well, you know what? I don't know, but I do know that, once again, historically speaking, a lot of people like in the ancient alien community like to reference Hindu gods being blue and suggest that these gods were actually aliens. And maybe that is the case, I don't know. But from a historical and esoteric perspective, blue is the color of wisdom. Blue is the color of knowledge and teaching. And so most gods and goddesses would be represented in some way with a blue color to represent the teacher, kind of like the chakra. They would be represented with some type of blue coloring to represent wisdom and enlightenment. And that blue may be very light blue going into white and yellow. It would represent illumination. And so when we see things as blue, maybe that is part of the collective subconscious that 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago went into developing those mythologies, and it plays out in a different way today. We just see it as maybe they did 2,000, 3,000 years ago. They saw it in some cases as literal, and today we also see it as literal. But maybe in 1,000 years from now, we'll look back and the blue avians will be a part of our mythology.
Yeah, shout out to Linda Irwin, just jumped in the chat room from Alex Exum's Wild Bunch. How you doing, Linda? But this blue thing, like, you know what, we've talked about the power of prayer, how some people can pray for you and they shouldn't be doing it, you know. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, my grandmother and grandfather prayed for me once and it caused all kinds of hell. So maybe this thing just came through and was like, hey, stop doing that, you know, stop praying for everybody. I don't know. I mean, I just have this whole problem with, you know, bow down to this God, love him, or you're going to get burned to death forever. I just got a problem with it. It don't make sense in my head. Just, it doesn't.
I know. Well,
as far as the praying and things not going right and everything like that, I've experienced the same thing. And it's usually from the intention of fear, because when people pray for other people, a lot of times they're praying for them because they fear for the other person, right? So that's where the basis of the prayer is coming from. And so that there is just some kind of mix up in the energy that gets put into that kind of prayer, because most loving prayers that come through they'll come through. Like if you pray for help and you're like, seriously desperate or whatever, that foxhole prayer, those prayers get answered. And it's not like all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, right? But if somebody's praying for you and they're coming from a place of serious fear because you have issues or whatever,
right?
It could actually backfire, like you were saying, because the intention is not coming from a place of faith, a place of trust. It's coming from a place of fear. And so whatever happens, there's like somebody got the prayer, read it dyslexically, you know?
That's got to be freaky, though. I mean, if this really happened to this man, and I'm tend to believe him. He sounds convincing.
I believe he had the experience.
I checked out all his stuff when he was talking about all his other books and all the stuff he wrote. It's all there. I mean, I don't see any other alternate. Usually, when people tell me these stories, like he's talking about, I'm looking for what's the agenda here. No, this guy's got everything to lose by coming out and saying this stuff. Actually, not everything to gain from it. I mean, all he's got to do is go back on Stern and they'll roast him to death about this stuff and he's done, but I think he did have the experience, and that's what's tripping me out, because, he said his wife and kids didn't see the apparition. He did, but his wife and kids did hear all the poltergeist activity that was happening in the house, though.
But it only manifested to him.
But he's the one. He actually saw it, so it makes me wonder if this thing was not attached to the house, like he's thinking, like maybe it was attached to him. I've never seen anything like that in my life, man. It was all those women books. Yeah, that's what did it. Oh, I don't know. It's just this week I really wanted to talk about some stuff like that, and Eric and I talked about, hey, let's get some more experiencers in here and talk about these things. Some people with some really convincing stories, like John. Tomorrow night Calvin's going to come on, and I'm trying to find stories. Even Wednesday night, the cryptid stuff. I'm trying to find stories that are more believable. By the way, I just want to say real quick to anybody out there that. And only one person has done this, and you know how I feel about cryptids and Sasquatch and all this other stuff. If you set up an interview with me, and you know who you are, and you don't respond to me, you don't respond to my messages, you don't respond to Eric's messages, and you're trying to convince the world of your case and how integral you are, that right there is a red flag to me that tells me that you don't have any integrity. So, I mean, there's people out there that, I'm going to come on your show and talk about all this stuff that won't do what this guy did. They come out and they don't, the day of the show, they don't respond to you or anything, but yet they want to friend you on Facebook, which doesn't, it's like some type of mind screw, but it doesn't really help your case when it comes to the Bigfoot. I got to tell you.
Right.
Ryan, do you believe in Bigfoot, brother? I'm curious. I don't think I've ever asked you that.
I don't know how many people have ever asked me that. I've done a Bigfoot show before, but I can't really answer that question, Joe, in a yes or no. I'd have to ask you, what is Bigfoot to you, and then tell you whether or not I believe it based on how you define it.
Okay. What about you, Dan? Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Yes, absolutely. There was just too many old mythological stories going on back then. What I would term him as, I obviously can't say, but I just know there's just way too many stories for it to not to be.
I'm sorry, I'm with Ryan on this one. I don't think hell's real. I just don't think it. I mean, if it is real, that's what gets me. Look, if hell is a real place, and I'm not trying to bash any religion here, if hell is a literal, physical place where your soul burns for eternity because you made the wrong decisions, or you didn't ask the right things, or you didn't get the right salvation, that God, I mean, I can almost side with the demons that are in hell here a little bit. Like, what kind of love is that? My mother wouldn't do that to me. My dad wouldn't do that to me.
You know, Joe, it's really interesting just asking me that question about Bigfoot. I know I don't give a yes or no answer. I know that's not really popular among the Bigfoot cryptid crowd, but that's really interesting that you bring that up in context with Bigfoot. Maybe I just tie things together that don't have any business being tied together. But if you were to ask me what I thought about hell, or what I thought about heaven, or what I thought about demons, I did this on the show 2 weeks, I think it was the Thursday before last, on the Secret Teachings. I talked about demons. I went through the 72 Solomonic spirits, and we looked at the word demon. The word demon comes from the Greek daemon, which means divine, meaning that angels are demons and demons are demons. So a lot of times we depict angels with beautiful wings and halos and beautiful white robes, but a lot of times demons manifest in that form. And then we see demons that are depicted like gargoyles with claws and teeth and horns on their head. And really, those actually are angels. The point being, depending on how you define demons and angels, it can radically change our perception of what exactly is right and wrong, what exactly is good and evil, and what exactly we see in terms of a fiery pit that we look at as being literal, as opposed to a symbolic interpretation, depending upon the language that's used. And I think that is so important. I know that's not a popular way to discuss the subject. No, but
it's a logical way to look at it, though.
Precisely. I think that's how most of these subjects, all of these subjects, need to be addressed. Otherwise, we just wind up in, do you believe in Bigfoot? Yes.
Yeah,
what
right.
about you? No. I don't know. I like to look at it in a little more detail than that.
I want to see one like Clyde Lewis. You know, like, I don't think he actually believed in it. You know, he was skeptical, but now he says he saw one. Like, if he said he saw one or he saw something, then I got to think there's something there. But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. The people that I've dealt with in this Bigfoot community, and I'm talking about people that are solely about Bigfoot. I don't know why we're talking about Bigfoot, but it's bothering me. But the people that are solely, that's all they want to talk about is just the Bigfoot thing. I haven't had real great experiences with them as far as integrity goes. I'm just telling you.
From a radio perspective and the producer perspective, I haven't either. My personal experience doesn't necessarily say anything negative about the subject. It just seems like a lot of people that cover the subject don't really have much integrity.
I think this is going on, too, and a lot of the things that we discuss on these shows, like, there are real things that are happening, like, there are real psychics, there are people that have real events, there's probably a real secret space program. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I think we're getting into this, we talked about this the other day, and I'm sure Dan is seeing this. There's a divide happening. Now, I want to talk about something. I don't know if any of you guys know this person. Do you guys know who Next NEXT is? You know this guy?
No.
No, I do not.
Well, you know, he used to be one of the big promoters. Like, he's in the music business. He's a big promoter. He's big into studying Rosicrucian stuff, and he's one of these marketing guys too. But you can tell he's really all about the research. And what I'm seeing now is more people are going out and just calling people out. So this guy goes on Facebook and goes, I guess it's the School of Chematology. Have you guys heard of this? Or the Chematology School? It's a whole different background about Egypt and stuff. I think Barbara Handclough goes into this as well. But anyways, everything all right over there?
Sorry.
You kind of trying to catch your breath?
Yeah.
Anyways, he goes over there, and I never thought I'd see this guy do this, because I always thought this guy was about his image, and that's all he cared about, because he's a really good marketer. But he's trying to vlog, he's trying to videotape all the information and what's going on, because he promised his fans that he would do it. And there's a couple of people he mentions, and I won't mention their names, but just people that do Egypt tours, and they were trying to not only control the information, but were pushing and shoving the guy around, not letting him do what he wants to, saying that he was trying to steal their information. And this dude went on Facebook and just blasted them all. And I've been seeing this, like this deal that happened with Ryan, some other things that have happened on the internet, some things that Clyde Lewis has talked about, like this divide that's happening. And I don't know if you guys see it too, but for so long in this community, we've been focused on, not all of us, but there's been this big focus on image, marketing. Make sure your image is okay. Make sure that your name is okay. Don't do anything that might stir anything up. But now people are starting to get sick and tired of it, and they want the truth, and there's a huge divide happening. And I don't like to get polar about things at all, but I can see the line there. You know what I'm talking about, Ryan? I'm sure you see it.
I do. I likewise see the divide. Although I've never had an issue with speaking out and directly saying what I think. Maybe at the beginning, but the last 5 or 6 years of my radio career, I've never had an issue speaking out. And in that process, I've definitely seen a larger and larger divide, even amongst people that I consider my friends still, whether they're authors or they're researchers or whoever they might be. And I've grown apart from those people because although I'll listen to what they say, I don't answer or ask questions in a polarizing way. I ask critical questions and I think critically, and that doesn't help them sell books or sell an idea. So I've inadvertently isolated myself from much of this community. But hey, I'm asking critical questions. I'm not just regurgitating and repeating some talking point, and I find some form of dignity personally in that.
God, I've done ruined my dignity on this show. I have no dignity left, you know. But I just, I hope everything stays cool. I don't want to see a war happen in this community for sure. I honestly, folks, I really don't, because I know I really honestly believe for the most part that all of the radio hosts and network guys and authors, and for the most part, are all just trying to get answers. So,
well, can I interject here?
Sure. Absolutely.
I think that we should also, this is my perspective, I think we should make this point. I agree with you 100%, but I'd like to provide a separate perspective. The separate perspective is, although there is a divide occurring within this so-called community, part of that divide is being widened by those who are not concerned with getting answers. They're not concerned with the truth, whatever you might define the truth to be. They are concerned with image, and they are concerned with money. And I think some people are seriously, and I mean this literally, not figuratively, seriously mentally ill. And I think some people are gold-digging opportunists that will exploit the work of others to expand their own pseudo-research. And for the people that do those types of things, it bothers me when, just really quick, one example, we literally, and I actually talked about this on my show last Wednesday and Thursday, and then it came out this weekend. I said that there was going to be, just because of all of the other stories, there was going to be another state, several states in the U.S., that are going to call for a statewide investigation of the church. And so we saw that in New York, we've seen that in California, now we've seen that in Michigan. And these are cases that continue to come out one after another, from Pennsylvania, from the East Coast to the West Coast. There are nuns killing children in Vermont. There's a story about that. In Scotland, in Germany, just tens of thousands of children directly raped by priests and members of the clergy. And while these stories are pouring out, and I think that it is part of a much larger Albert Pike-style agenda to destroy the image of the church along with the image of Judaism and Islam through Wahhabism and Zionism, I think that if we look at the details of that, all of those details are obscured by those people that claim, because one person went on Alex Jones's show and Alex Jones disavowed this person, they go on Alex Jones's show and say there's a child sex colony on Mars. And a few people pick that up because it's sensational. Newspapers, alternative and mainstream alike, including so-called researchers. And they start to claim that there are child sex colonies on Mars. And whether or not they're doing it because they're being paid, because they're disinfo agents, or because they actually believe it, they provide absolutely no proof, and they direct all of our attention to another planet. Meanwhile, here on Earth, we're seeing even the mainstream media acknowledge a global, international network of drug traffickers, child pornographers, and human traffickers, along with child abusers, rapists, and murderers within religious and political institutions. That's something that should be addressed. That's something that's well documented. That's something that's factual. Unless I see a photograph or a claim from some Mars astronaut that they saw children being raped on Mars, I think that we should drop that nonsense right now, because it highly discredits the very credible information we have otherwise that is coming out every day in local newspapers and national press.
I can't believe people would actually follow that kind of lead. I mean, you obviously seen it, right? I mean, surely there's other people that are seeing this stuff in this community. You've seen it. If you've seen it, you got to assume that other people are seeing it. The problem is when I see you speak. Yeah, when I see you speak out, though, I only see maybe a few people that are, and I know there's a divide going on as far as what people are listening to and the content they take in, but I only see a few people that are actually willing to say something about it. You know what I mean?
I'll agree with you there. Yeah, not many people are willing to say something about it. I think that's because of image, like you said.
Dan, you've been in this community a long time. Is this image thing always going to be here? Is it going to be a never-ending, constant battle of, hey, look at me and all my pretty stuff? Is it always going to be there?
As long as it takes you away from getting you back in touch with your spirit, yeah. That's the war that we're in today. People, you're in it whether you want to believe you're in it or not. It's just a truism. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is, and it'll be that way for a while. The thing that you brought up before about the sensationalism of the Mars thing was that, it gets out there, and it's not like everybody who's like crazy for sensationalism picks it up and runs with it. It's these other wannabe bait clicking things that are out there pushing. They pick it up and they run with the story and they push it out there even more. It's not like Joe Schmo on the street is freaking telling Aunt Mary about Mars and stuff like that, because they're not, but Sister Rubart is, because Sister Rubart she gets on Instagram and there it is in her face, right? So, it's not so much the people, but the people who are running the information aggregates who are spreading the plague.
Good point. I agree. I think that's part of the community divide, are the people that are spreading that plague for one reason or another.
Well, tonight, John talked about hell and evil and stuff, and the reason why I'm asking you guys these questions is because I think that hell is also a state of being, and there are literally people on this planet right now, whether you want to admit it or not, in the comfort of your own home, that are going through a living hell that do not deserve it, and a lot of them are children. And I'm gonna just be honest with you. I didn't want to look at this subject, Ryan. When you brought it up on the network, I was like, oh man, nobody wants to hear this, because they're like, oh, you're killing my buzz or whatever, right? First of all, if there's children out there being hurt and harmed, and somebody talking about it's killing your buzz, you need to check yourself, man. For real. What if it was your kid?
Exactly.
It don't matter, though. You're just killing my buzz. Well, I feel like if we're adults, it's our responsibility as human beings to protect people that can't be protected. And all we can do is, as broadcasters, is talk about it and raise up enough crap, hopefully that somebody will take a left turn when they were afraid to, instead of going right and go check this stuff out. But what Amalia told me, I don't know if you guys heard the show when she came on, as hard as it was for her to admit about what was going on with the children, it scared the hell out of me. What really scared me was that she was so afraid to talk about it. Because that's the kind of power that she's up against. You guys
the type of people who are doing on such scale, who are doing these crimes on such a scale, they are backed by a lot of power, and your life will be destroyed if you run up and try to be, the whistleblower, if you try to be, Paul Revere. I'm telling you right now, it gets to the point where people get retarded because they want to think that they just tuned in and this is supposed to be entertainment. They just got off of work and they don't want to hear it because like you were saying, it's a buzzkill or whatever. But it's about your kids, man. I mean, I grew up and I had to go through a bunch of freaking sexual bull crap, and I wish somebody else was there to freaking help me. But there was nobody there. I tried to open my own mouth and, and people looked at me like I was freaking crazy. He's a friend of the family. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you can't say that.
This kind of crap. Exactly. And then, later on, I'm freaking sitting at the dinner table with this son of a bitch. And so, but, it's like if you're not going to do it, then who's going to say anything for these kids? And the only way you're going to get the news out is if you say something about this. And it's a bad thing. It's not a nice thing. And nobody wants to freaking know about it because God forbid you should actually identify with what happened.
You know what? I don't want to believe in like demons coming through fifth dimensional portals and stuff, but listen, the thing about it is if this kind of evil is happening backed by that kind of money, that Amalia was talking about, and that kind of power that she knows that if she says something or says a name, because I was upset. I was like, look, if kids are being hurt, you need to go to a journalist or something. I even told her off air, you need to do this or that. And she was like, you don't understand who these people are. You don't understand who they'll hurt if I say this or that. And I was like, holy shit, excuse my French, but I don't know.
She's in no position. She's in no position to go up against something like that, because some of these people are at that level where you can be a non-person instantly.
The only thing I can imagine that's that sick and evil, in my mind, isn't even human. I'm sorry, but some people would say, well, it's definitely humans, just really bad ones. Well, I don't know, man. I study human nature every day, and I just think there's something else behind it. Call it evil, demons, Satan. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, that subject typically gets disassociated from those topics of the paranormal and the occult and weird, strange, mysterious stories. But I don't think much more. I don't think much of the subject of pedophilia and child trafficking and other bizarre related stories. I don't think that could be much more paranormal when you're talking about possession. When you're talking about black masses, when you're talking about ritual sacrifice, when you're talking about priests not only abusing kids sexually, but degrading them with these bizarre stories of child pornography where they had one kid in the Pennsylvania grand jury report, one kid in this network, they had him mimic Jesus on the cross naked while they frocked around him and took pictures of this kid. I mean, this stuff, it's one thing, yes, you could say to just abuse a child, but you have to break apart what that word means and why the media uses abuse. Because in the mainstream media eyes, they'll report on the story, whether it's CNN, like it's that blonde lawyer, that woman, what's her name? She used to do that when people would have like marijuana and they talk about how horrible the parents were for having marijuana and the child smelt it, and that's child abuse. Or, if you make a kid eat some broccoli. Yeah, Nancy something, I think. Not feeding your kid, or if you do, you feed your kid, let's say, broccoli and Brussels sprouts, that's child abuse to some people. That's not in the same league as sexually abusing a child. That's not in the same league as raping a child. So just as they said in that award-winning movie, Spotlight, we cannot sanitize the language. We need to be very specific and direct about what is happening. That's one of the ways this can be brushed under the rug and ignored by just simply saying, well, some kids were abused. It's no big deal. Let's talk about something like Bigfoot. It's fun to talk about Bigfoot. No, I think this subject is about the darkest and most perverse topic that we could discuss, and it relates to the occult, it relates to the esoteric, it relates to the paranormal, it relates to possession, it relates to demonology, it relates to a whole bunch of stuff that I don't think has really been addressed because most of the time we just ignore it. It's just child abuse. Forget it.
There was something.
Journalism. It's hardcore journalism.
Yeah,
man.
well, it was disgusting. I just seen an article on Reddit where they're saying that they're renaming the pedophilia thing to minor attracted person.
You got to be kidding me. It's like they just keep doing everything they can to sympathize for these people. You know, and another thing else that I seen too is like that you brought up, Ryan, which I just didn't even notice it until I heard it the other day, is these stand-up comedians that are, you know, they think it's cool to make a joke out of everything, right? Well, it's too soon. You know, it's like it's cool to joke about it. There are a lot of things in my mind that's cool to joke about, and I'm talking about boundaries that some people don't think it's cool to joke about that I think is just fine because it's just jokes. But this isn't something to joke about, man. These are children. And until, I'm just going to tell you guys this, until the war of this starts going one way or the other, I think all the broadcasters out there, anybody that's in media, podcasting, broadcasting, news, I don't care if you're behind a mic or in front of a camera, you know, if you can't get out there and save 1,000 children or something, you need to really be talking about it until something starts swaying one way or the other. Because I think we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here.
Yeah, it goes a lot deeper than what we see on the surface. And there's so much 99+% that we probably have no clue about what is actually happening behind the scenes.
For sure. It gets to the point where you're going to have to take the side. And nobody wants to take the side. Everybody wants to be nice and neutral and everything like that. Don't shake the fence, you know. And it gets to the point where it's like you're watching and you're getting involved and everything like that, and you're like, well, where am I going to be sitting? Am I on the side of the people or am I on the side of progress? Under the guise of traumatic-based programming.
I don't know, Ryan. I just don't know. Like, I feel like I can't not talk about it. But then again, coming as a network owner, I know that I can kind of understand why someone wouldn't want you to talk about it. But the more I think about that, I'm like, why would, I guess from a business point of view, but it still doesn't make sense to me. I mean, why would any network owner say, look, don't talk about these things? I can't find, especially if you can document it, why would they not want you to?
Well, yeah, see, that's an interesting question. That's a really good question. In fact, you know, Michael Vera from L&M accused me in an article they put up on their website, accused me way after the fact, after everything had, all the dust had settled, everything was essentially finalized, and there wasn't anything else going on between me and that network. They put up a huge article about how I was guilty of calling all sorts of people by name pedophiles, and this is going to get you sued. And anytime I've ever said anything on my radio broadcast, it's because of court documents, it's because of convictions, it's because of I'm reading mainstream news reports and just reading through a couple of highlights in the article and not calling anybody a pedophile.
Right. I remember that post. He even accused you of not following the law. I'm like, how did he not? How did he not do that? I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I've actually been accused 2 times of being a pedophile. That's a really common thing that'll happen to people that talk about this. They will be accused of being a pedophile themselves. I hope that you guys never get something like that. That's a tactic. That's a tactic that's used. You'll be considered a pedophile. In fact,
that's what they'll do. They plant the data on your systems.
That's right. That's right. See, I'm the kind of person I have absolutely, I mean, maybe this is an arrogant thing to say, but in my life, I have nothing essentially to lose. I will say anything at any time in any setting. And whether it's the subject of child trafficking, pedophilia, whatever the case might be, or me being asked not to come back to conferences because of something like this, guys. I literally am asked not to come back to 5D, and I'm not allowed really technically to go to Contact in the Desert, not because I'm a bad person, not because I went there and I said, hey, this is a horrible place, don't come to it. Because I went there and a few people that talk, with the exception of everybody else who I got along with and have had on my show at some point, I've said, I have a really hard time believing what these people are saying, the Wilcock cabal specifically, and I would like to see some documented proof. You know, the documented proof that it seems every other speaker presents. And because of that, don't come back, you're a threat, we don't want you here. That's just asking a question like, okay, Mr. Wilcock, you're claiming there's a giant portal in the Vatican that Corey Good stepped through and then went to another planet and talked to blue avians. Can I see some evidence of that? And just asking those kinds of questions will get you banned from events and will blackball you from this industry. That's really dangerous, especially considering the fact that this whole industry uses the word truth like it's water. It just comes with everything. You go to a restaurant, you sit down, you want a glass of water, they pour you a glass of water. It's just so common. This is where you get the truth. I don't think half these people know what the word truth means. I don't think half of these people have any idea what they're looking for. They're making money and promoting their image.
Right. Considering that the premise is all about questioning the narrative. And as long as you're not questioning their narrative, then you have nothing to worry about.
I forgot to tell absolutely. You guys, the phone lines are open too. Somebody did try to call and I missed it. It's 1-800-588-0335. I'm just, to be honest with you guys, like I want to do something about it. As from a network owner's point of view, I want to say something about it. I want to do something about it. But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't want to be ostracized in this community either, but every time I hear myself even think that, Joe, you don't want to ostracize yourself in this community, the only thing I can think about is those children. Like, what's more important?
Well, you know, if you were going to do something, anything, I don't know if you're a construction worker, you're building a building, or you're a filmmaker, you're going to make a film, you got to have a crew to help you put things together. You got to have an audio team, a special effects team maybe. You got a team for editing, a producing team, people that go out and they look for the location to shoot on. You got a film crew, people that handle the film, and things like that. You're not doing it all by yourself, at least if you're doing it in a professional setting. And even if you do it by yourself, you usually got a couple friends that help you out with it. Yeah. And if you go try to do it by yourself and you try to do all of those things, you're probably not going to succeed. But if you start and your friend says, this looks fun, let me help you out with that, and your friend comes along and does it with you, and you build a team, then you can accomplish what you set out to accomplish. And if so, you know, if I say something, just me, out of billions of people, that might not make such a dramatic difference. But if I say something, and that gives someone else the courage to say something, and then that person saying something gives another person the courage to say something, and so on and so forth, it creates this critical mass at some point. And I think we've reached that critical mass. It's just a matter of knowing what critical mass to reach next in terms of steering this public information about what's coming out from Scotland to Germany to the United States to Canada and all over the world, steering that information to uncover more of what's happening instead of using that to simply say, "Ooh, the church is bad." I know a lot of people like to say that. The church is just bad. It's just the priests. It's just Catholicism. No, it's not just Catholicism, because this happens in Judaism, it happens in Islam, it happens in every single religion, every single political. This transcends politics. It transcends religion.
All walks of life.
The religion of the elite.
Right.
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it encompasses all walks of life. It's
Yes,
not
sir.
just based on one thing. It's not like you can just how do you call that? Demonize one group or one demographic or whatever. It's not. It doesn't work that way because it's so far spread that the problem is nebulous.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Good point. What do you think, Joe?
I just think, we're going to talk about a lot of different subjects on this show, but I will say that censorship is not something that the Fringe FM is going to be about. It may not be the most popular thing. I'm not, I don't like to call out names until I know I've got what I need. Like, for instance, the Corey Good and David Wilcock thing. Like, I totally get everybody that's ever spoke out and said, look, I just don't believe these guys, or I need evidence or whatever. I haven't got to speak to them yet, or until I do, or until I see some damning evidence that comes out that they're lying. I don't really know what to say, because there is a small possibility they're telling the truth, but that's kind of one of those things that I think it's almost a waste of time for me to pursue. But I used to believe that, and Ryan kind of changed my mind about this, actually. I used to believe that, look, if you're going to believe this kind of stuff anyways, no matter what anybody tells you, I don't see why I should waste my energy on it. But what Ryan has explained to me, and what I've noticed, is that some people, even to this day, need a little guidance and are easily guided by these things, that he's trying to speak up for those folks, And it's a catch-22, because you're damned if you do, and inside your soul, you're damned if you don't, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm damned if I say anything about it, for sure, but if I don't say anything about it, then inside me, like inside myself, me as a person, it bothers me.
Right.
So what do you do?
Well, that's why I appreciate Ryan's show, because he does what I've been saying for a while as far as walking the talk. He keeps his side of the street clean. He won't come out and just openly speculate, because a lot of that speculation gets pulled out of context, and that's what people love. So when you're coming up with stuff that's already printed, stuff that's already documented, stuff that's already, in the court cases and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to freaking say otherwise against it. But they're going to do it anyway. So the best thing to do is, like Brian was saying earlier, was get yourself a guidance, get yourself a guidance, a group of people, so that you can keep your side of the street clean, because they're going to come against you. It's an eventuality. It's not even a when. It's not even an if, it's a when.
Right.
So,
context is a really important word. So much gets taken out of context. I've had people that have messaged me and say, there's so much more to talk about. Why are you bashing David Wilcock? Yet I started off that show in particular with saying, this is not bashing. I am looking at what they said. I am playing clips of what they've said. I am proving in some cases what they said incorrect. And I am speculating, well-controlled speculation that is, that some of the other claims that I can't directly prove sound like rubbish to me. And here's them saying it. Here's my opinion. And I think, because I would want someone to fill me in on this information if I didn't know, here is some information maybe you didn't know about these people. And that's how I present it. And plus I do 4 to 5 shows a week. Sometimes I do the best of, but I do 4 to 5 shows a week. I talk about a lot more than just David Wilcock. I talk about a lot more than just pedophilia. And of course, if you tune in just for one show, whether that's Joe's show or anybody's show, and you hear that one subject and you don't tune in again, you might think, oh, well, Joe only talks about, demons manifesting from the 5th dimension. Ryan only talks about pedophilia. But if you listen in a little more detail and you listen in context with any information, then things might make a little bit more sense. And I think that goes for anything. You could pick up a book, you could read page 97 out of 1,000 and kind of get an idea of what the author thinks, but the author might just be being facetious on page 97. And if you read the whole book and with all the information in context, then it all begins to make a little more sense.
God, you're asking people to use their mind, Ryan. So that's what I'm talking about. I don't want to say, and I really don't want to believe that there is a divide between entertainment and information, because I've always looked at them as kind of the same thing. But I guess I could say this. I've always appreciated the same thing. Like back in the day when people like John Anthony West would come on and talk, and Robert Bouval, and we would really be getting somewhere, but it would be entertaining you. But now after what I've seen on Facebook and people doing these live videos of the information is being controlled and marketed as if it's all about image, and people are trying. Listen, number one, you can't control information. Literally, somebody told this NEXT guy that you're trying to steal my information. And the information that this person was talking about was history, and you can't really steal that. Pushing the guy around, not letting him videotape, stuff like that, and it's like, wow, and these people are well known in the community, so they'll find a piece of information that nobody really studies because it's extravagant, but meanwhile, a lot of people have studied it, and they just want to talk about it too, but they can't. Shut your video camera off. You're trying to steal my information, stuff like that, and it's like, whoa, what happened to entertainment and information being okay? Like, we can't do this anymore? Are we not allowed to do this anymore? Can we not play together? Or are you guys really going to be like that,
Yeah, I want to make another really quick point, is that last Wednesday, I did a show where I read through the Wilcock Cabal, their new article for the month of September about deep state arrests and satellites being taken down, all of this stuff. You might say, well, and I agree, maybe they are telling the truth, but a couple of things about that article stood out to me. Number one, really quick, is that David Wilcock said he has 6 insider sources. And the first thing about those 6 insider sources is I have 7 insider sources who told me, Joe and Dan, that David Wilcock's 6 insider sources were wrong. See how easy that is? I have 7 insiders that said his 6 insiders are wrong. Now, I'm just being kind of humorous there, but that's how easy it is to provide credit or to discredit somebody else. I have 7 insiders, he has 6. If he has 7, I've got 8, and we can go on all day. The second thing about that is, you really think that 6 insiders working within this omnipotent cabal that work to take down these spy satellites and issue all of these arrest warrants for the elite, how can you try someone? How can you arrest somebody? How can you put somebody through a justice system when they own the justice system, when they own the handcuffs? How can you put somebody through the very same system that you go on rambling about saying and you continue to claim is so incredibly corrupt? You can't. Yeah. How can these 6 insiders operate within a system and nobody knows who they are, but they're coming to some seemingly random guy on the internet, and the deep state, black operations, black hats don't know about that? BS. Now, the other point, really quick, is that some information, yes, it maybe is true, maybe it's not. It's not proven as far as I'm concerned, but to state that there are 51,716 whatever, they claim that there are so many sealed indictments. Okay, let's say that there are. Fine. When they go on to explain this information, if you read one of these David Wilcock articles, he goes on to compare it to things like this. It actually says this on his website. He said if you take the 51,000 so many 700 and something, whatever the number was, sealed indictments, and you divide it by the number of people that died on 9/11, he actually said this, and the number of people who were injured on 9/11, that gives you 570. And that proves that these sealed indictments are 5.7 times more important than 9/11. That is the most irrelevant, irrational thing that I have ever heard and I have ever read in this field of radio and research. That has nothing to do with anything. Well, it's your bogus claim up against something that actually happened, and then you put together this pseudo-mathematical equation. It's nonsense.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to try to do, and I really want to try to do this. I'm going to try to get either David Wilcock or Corey Good. I mean, honestly, try to get them to come on the show and make their case, because just like this guy, John, come on, he can't really prove what he's saying, but he don't have this mass following, and I think that's what, I've gotten messages saying, look, there's all kinds of people saying stuff. Ryan's just upset about Wilcock because he's got a lot of followers. And I'm like, okay,
that's not the point.
It's really not the point, but
Well, Joe, if I was upset at somebody for having a big audience, I'd be upset at my friend Clyde Lewis.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, I'm not upset at him either by any means. God love that man, But it's
Clyde's the man.
The thing about it is we do got to get out of here, but I really do want to talk to him, man. Like maybe I can. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a better host or journalist than all the other ones that have talked to him, or maybe the only two hosts that have talked to him. But maybe I could get something out of him that might actually put some more light on the subject. If they would actually do that, I would love to have him on.
Maybe he'll give you the synchronicity key.
Maybe
the name of the show is Lighting the Void.
Because there is a void there. I'm sure we can all see it. There's a deep void there. And, some of us just want answers. That's all, man. It's not an attack. I mean, if this is really going on, then we want real answers about it. That's all. That's all there is to it. But like tomorrow night,
it's been an honor, Ryan.
Yeah, we're gonna have Calvin on tomorrow night. He's got a really compelling story about just as compelling as Travis's. Pretty close to that as far as the evidence and the lie detector test stuff goes. But again, there's only certain things you can prove in these cases. But we're still going to go down this rabbit hole. I really appreciate you guys coming on the third hour. It means a lot to me.
Yes, but it's been fun, Joe. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. And don't forget that this show was produced by The Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission. And the intro music was by Chronox. The guitar man was Bundy. And the other music was by Space Station and Kevin MacLeod. We'll see you guys tomorrow night with Calvin Parker. Good night.